Good evening. I'd like to call to order the September 23rd, 2013 Goffstown Board of Selectmen's meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight we have budget presentations by both the Fire Department and Police Department at 7 o'clock. But first I want to take up, and just so that the public knows, we had a non-public session at 5:45 this evening under RSA 91-A:3 Roman 2, subsection A, discipline. We voted out of the non-public session. No action was taken. I'd like to take up the minutes of the September 16th, 2013 Selectmen's meeting. Do we have any motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second that.
Any corrections? We need them.
Thank you. And do we have any corrections to the minutes from September 16th from any board members? None? None? I have none. None, Alan? Nobody has it? I'll entertain a motion, though. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries 4-0. I'll make a note that Selectman Devanza will not be with us tonight, so there are only 4 voting members of the board, so that motion carries 4-0. Does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share with the public? Any members of the board? Sue, anyway? Yes.
Yesterday, the Goffstown Fire Explorers had their morning breakfast. From the crew and the group that worked there, they would like to send out a heartfelt, warm thank you to everybody who attended the breakfast. They had well over 100 people attend the breakfast. They had a very good turnout. They just want to say thank you very much for the support that the town showed for the new Fire Explorer post.
That's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The weather actually cooperated. It was supposed to be all that great.
Yeah, it was very nice. It was a very nice day yesterday.
Forecast. Great, thank you. Any other announcements from anybody? Okay, seeing none, our first public comment is at 6:10. It's only 6:04 right now, so let's go into the town administrator's report, if we could, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your weekly meeting schedule is in your packets. Tuesday night at 7 you have Conservation Commission, and Thursday night at 7 is the Planning Board.
Okay, Conservation Commission covered?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
And Phil's not here, but I assume he'll cover the Planning Board.
Yeah, I think you will be back by then.
Okay.
Consensus folder, you have employee status reports, 3 resignations of part-time employees and an end of probation period for another. You have a letter authorizing use of ATV and snowmobile trail maintenance. And you have New Hampshire Association of Assessing Officials ballot for the 2014 officers. And today I emailed you a draft of a letter to New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. I don't know if the board has had time to review that.
Mm-hmm.
If so, you can authorize your signatures on this, and this is the original.
I'll make a motion to approve the consensus folder.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the consensus folder? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
I'm sorry, I didn't get who made the motion.
I did, I'm sorry.
Oh, all right. And the second was Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Request for building permit at 61 Incline. Last week, the board inquired if this property had water and sewer, and it does. It's on the assessing card. It's up at the top on the front, and I had missed it also during the meeting last week. The building inspector reports there is a 500-gallon cinder block septic system which is not failed. If and when it fails, it will need to be replaced with state-approved septic. The assessor informs me, because there was a question about seasonal use, we really don't have a seasonal code on the assessing card, so he uses the word camp just to describe the style of the structure. So I think that was all that you had asked for.
What do they have for water supply? So
They have a well.
a dug well, drilled well, do you know?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
The assessing card
But
didn't
it's
specify
individual
that.
water supply.
Right, and this applicant is seeking to insulate his house. He has propane heat source. And again, this is on a Class 6 road, and that's why it's before you.
Yep. My question's been answered. I'm in favor of giving the permit.
I'll make a motion to accept this.
Okay, we have a motion to accept and a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
I'm sure he'll appreciate that, because he said it's getting kind of cold.
Crank up the
Sure,
program.
yeah.
2010 tax deeding and forbearance agreements. The tax collector, Gila Valley, presents a list of 17 parcels with 3 years of overdue property taxes. She's arranged payment arrangements with 10 of the 17 for your consideration and signature, and she's working with the other 7. One appears to be abandoned, but she'll have recommendations of those upcoming. But
And the
right-
10 were in our signature folder.
The 10 are in your signature folder, the forbearance agreements.
Everybody seen those and signed those?
I gotta sign them after.
Okay.
Motion to approve the 2010 tax deeding and forbearance agreement list.
Thank you.
Second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
And a new item added today was a request for a letter of support from the Board of Selectmen for a milfoil grant application that is being made by Nemaski Lake Association. So they are applying for a grant, and they just need a letter of support from the town. The draft letter was emailed to you, and I believe it's in your signature folder tonight.
Yep, I saw it. Yeah, this is merely a letter of support. We're not
That's all
committing
it
any
is.
town dollars, just voicing our support for the effort.
Correct.
And the way the process works, the application goes in first, state accepts it, and then you get estimates for what the dollar cost is, and that goes in October.
What's the cost share, do we know?
They're usually 50/50 on the milfoil between the
Yeah.
grant, and that's what it's been
And the receiver?
historically.
I would
Gordon
imagine
Yankee.
it's as their budgets allow, too.
Exactly,
Because
yes.
Well, sure.
Oh,
yeah.
this isn't D, is this conservation? State
This is the
conservation?
conservation plate grants, yeah. Yeah, I certainly have no problem with that. Do we have a motion and a second already? I don't remember.
No.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion
Second that.
and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
And I believe Amy Smaguler is coming
Tomorrow
tomorrow night
evening,
to
yes.
Conservation
Yes.
Commission to discuss milfoil in both lakes and the updated plan at Glen Lake.
And I believe Mr. Mike Allard will be there as well, who's the president of the Nemaski Lake Association.
I plan to be there as well. Are any other members of the board planning on going? I want to have a quorum problem here.
Nope,
Okay.
I'm cooking tomorrow night. I'm out of service.
All right, good. Well, I will attend. I have a
Good.
keen interest in this. Okay, very good.
And that's it.
So let's see, other than that, we've just got the budget presentations and public comment. Let's go to public comment now, if we could, and as part of the public comment, I wanted to read into the record a letter that's been prepared by our administrative staff, and I'm going to read it in its entirety for the folks who are in the audience who may be watching on GTV. And I'll read it. It's not that long. It's a page and a half. It's dated September 23rd, 2013. It's to Mr. Benjamin D. Frost, the CPG Program Administrator at New Hampshire Housing. The subject line is Town of Goffstown CPG Pinardville Sustainable Community Plan and Smart Code. And the letter reads as follows. Dear Mr. Frost, this letter is to inform you that the town's endeavors under the Community Planning Grant Program for a Sustainable Pinardville have been completed in accordance with our grant agreement to the extent possible by the Plan Pinardville Ad Hoc Committee. New Hampshire RSA 674:2, Roman 1 states that, quote, the purpose of the master plan is to set down as clearly as practically as possible the best and most appropriate future development of the area under the jurisdiction of the planning board to aid the board in designing ordinances that result in preserving and enhancing the unique quality of life and culture of New Hampshire, end quote. And there's some emphasis added on that last portion of the sentence. This project endeavored to create a plan that could then act as the official policy statement that supported the next step, that being to create a smart code, which we now call a character-based development ordinance. The ad hoc committee met a number of times to work on the development of the Pinardville Community Plan. They provided a succinct list of comments back to the consultant on their original draft, and the consultant made those changes. Staff also helped make any necessary changes to the document to ensure that it was in accordance with comments from the committee and citizens. On August 27th, 2013, the ad hoc committee made their last set of recommended changes to the plan and voted 5-0 to recommend adoption of the plan by the Planning Board. The Planning Board reviewed and held a public hearing to discuss the Pinardville Community Plan and to consider adopting it as an amendment to the town's master plan on September 12, 2013. There were over 130 people from the community that attended the meeting, mostly voicing opposition to the plan. Consequently, the Planning Board listened to the people and voted 7-0 to thank the ad hoc committee for their work and to not adopt the plan as an amendment to the town's master plan. The second part of this project was to have a new code regulations called the Character-Based Development Ordinance developed in accordance with the Pinardville Community Plan. Those were pre-developed and submitted by our consultant prior to the adoption of the plan to the town with the hopes that the Pinardville Community Plan would be adopted. Since the plan was not adopted by the Planning Board, and in light of the public outcry on this project, we feel that our contractual obligations to develop and propose a new plan and code have been met to the farthest extent possible. Any further action to continue developing the Character-Based Development Ordinance and or proposing that the Planning Board hold public hearings to consider these code amendments without the underlying support of an adopted Pinardville Community Plan as part of this project would not be appropriate. We respectfully request that the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority deem the town of Goffstown to have met its obligations under the grant agreement and reimburse the town for the remainder of its expenses due to date on this project. Please let us know your decision as soon as possible so that we may direct Brian Rose, the Planning and Zoning Administrator, appropriately as to the next steps towards finalizing this project. Sincerely, and it will be signed by the members of the Goffstown Board of Selectmen. So this basically says that we've asking them to agree that we've completed our contractual obligations. We will not be adopting the plan or the code, and basically putting this whole matter to rest. So, I bring that before the board for your consideration. Have you all had time to read the letter? Do you have any comments on it? Do you want to make any edits to it before we direct the town administrator to contact Brian Rose and work together to issue this letter to Mr. Frost? Is that our wishes?
I think it speaks exactly to that.
Exactly what's going on.
I think it's spot on.
There is a signature one there.
This
would
one?
be- Yep.
Okay.
If everyone could sign that, we could get that in the mail tomorrow.
Okay. I'd like to take a motion from someone.
That was in the
I think it was in the
consensus
consensus folder.
Oh, was?
So we
Yes,
can-
I added it to the
Okay.
consensus folder.
So we've already done that.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. I'll sign this and then we can pass it around. And again, I personally would like to thank the ad hoc committee for their hard work, and Brian Rose for kind of being the guy who was riding point on this for the town. But we've heard the wishes of the people, and that's good enough for this board, I guess.
And the residents for coming out.
Yeah, and I
and
thank them
speaking.
very much. I mean, that's the way the process is supposed to work, the way that I think our forefathers intended it to work, and I'm glad we have come to this conclusion. For those of you who are here for that item, appreciate your support and showing up and voicing your opinions, and thank you very much. Stay involved in local issues and local politics. It's what it's all about.
May I just address a question I had brought forward tonight?
Sure.
I've kind of taken a step back, and I'm hoping you folks can educate me as a town resident.
Could we have your name,
And,
please, ma'am?
My name's Alice Cacchetti.
Thank you.
I live on Fairview Street in Pinardville. And I wrote it out because I've had a really bad cold, so bear with me. My first question is actually two-part, and believe me, it's not accusatory. It's wanting to understand the process of the town more in depth. After listening to Representative Jack Flanagan speak at the information night that was hosted by our Representative John Burt, and I know a couple of you heard him speak because you were there. I know you were there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You were there.
I was there.
Sorry, didn't recognize. But my two-part question is this. how much actual research gets done by either town employees, whether they're paid or appointed or whatever, before that one in particular, but any grant money is accepted? Or is it open-ended? Is it just, oh, there's money? Or is it because there's more to it than that? There's money available, we want it? Or is there's richness in this grant that will serve our citizens, and therefore maybe we should look into it? But I guess I'm curious, how much looking into goes on before we get into something like we went through?
Well, I'll answer that for you. And richness is a good word, because I think that's very accurate. I think what we have is a situation where various members of the community may come forward with an opportunity that may require some grant money, or may come from our town administration, it may come from one of our committees or boards in town who know of grant money for a specific purpose and think it may be a worthwhile endeavor for the town of Goffstown and its citizens. And that's, I think, what happened here. You know, I think it was one of those things where it was good intentioned, and everybody thought, you know, let's give this a try. It sounds like something that we may be able to benefit from. Now, not every plan is a good plan, you know, but I think it's a good community that can react appropriately and step back and say, you know what, okay, we made a mistake. Let's stop here, end it here, and deal with it. And you know, I think that's the way the process is supposed to work.
I agree.
And again, I appreciate there are a lot of people who put in a lot of hours and a lot of hard work, and it's their own free time away from their families, their own personal time, and they all thought they were doing something in the best interest of the community. And nobody had anything else, I'm convinced, other than those good intentions at heart when they set off on this endeavor. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way, but again, we recognize the mistake, and that's okay.
So then it would behoove the residents, especially of Pinardville, to work together to see what changes or what direction we want to go as a bedroom of the town, and make suggestions to the board. Is that how that begins?
Well, I think it depends on what the issue is you're trying to bring forward.
Let me give you just an example, because I mean, like, my head is spinning with lots of things that can be done. But I like the fact that it's grassroots and that we can take care of our town and we can make it what we want, not with somebody. My concern with somebody coming in from outside and rubber stamping a plan that they've shown elsewhere doesn't make it personal for me. But one thing that I would like to probably make a project for myself is recently in Pinardville, the Public Service Company has put up another transformer, which obviously is necessary for the growth. But has anybody addressed the ability to make that not so, you know, out there? I mean, here we want to make our community look better. That wasn't going to change with Planned Pinardville. Isn't there a way that we can, as a community, I mean, I'm not sure where the property line ends or whatever, to look into that, so we as a community could do a fundraiser to get a fence or get flower, you know, trees or something that wouldn't delay their access in and out. But we don't have to look at it 24/7. It's gross.
Well, that's a great example. And if there's a way we can do it on town property, absolutely, and in a way that doesn't affect PSNH's operations.
Exactly. We don't want.
I mean, they have to deliver power reliably. So, you know, that's a great example of where a group wants to get together and come to the selectmen, because, you know, the selectmen we oversee the administration of the town with a proposal, and they want to identify the appropriate parties and whatnot. It's something we can entertain.
Okay.
I'm wondering, now that we have that idea out there, is that something maybe our town administrator can contact Public Service to see?
Public Service came in a couple times to show what they were doing, and before they went to the planning board, but they did go through the planning board process. And I remember that specific issue of, you know, I said, you know, it's pretty hidden right now.
Yeah.
And they had some safety concerns, and I don't know if the chief knows of the safety concerns, but there were definitely public safety concerns with keeping it non-visible from the road.
I would think
But
it would be
they
more
did go through the planning board. And I don't know, I lost track of it there, and our representative to the planning board is Selectman Devanzer, and he's not here this evening to comment.
But if that's something you want to bring forward to the Board of Selectmen as a suggestion, a recommendation, and proposal, I mean, we're certainly open and receptive to that. Again, we'd have to work through all the legal avenues. And I suspect what they're talking about is there was a concern that if you screen it, you can't see what's going on behind it, like, you know.
Kids and whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's under lock and key, supposedly. No, and I get that.
Yeah.
But I just think that there's some way we can still make it not such an eyesore.
I think you're probably right.
you know. I mean, especially, like I say, every time I drove by it during this whole process, I thought they wanted to make our town prettier. What's this, you know? Maybe we can have a painting party and paint it blue or something.
In answer to Alice's question, though, isn't that a more appropriate topic for the planning board? When they're coming, couldn't that have been a condition if?
Correct, but I think it's after the fact now.
Right,
Right.
it is, okay.
So now, if
So
a
I
group
will
of
trust
citizens
you.
wants to come forward with a proposal, then I think we can entertain that.
Okay. And my other question, and it's just kind of, again, it's after the fact, but I'd like to know how we found Brian Wright. How did he get to be
The group
the
in Tennessee,
designer? Yeah.
we interviewed
It was a bid
Five?
process.
It was a bid process.
and we interviewed, I forget, 4 or 5 different consultants.
And were they given to you as a list of 4 consultants, or did you go
No,
looking for them?
No, we advertised
That's
for
You
typical.
it.
advertised.
Yeah.
Okay. Just
And-
wanted
and
to-
We
got
request
the board.
proposals.
It's important to me, you know, I don't want to be speaking half-truths or falsehoods. I mean, I figure if I come out here and ask the questions hard, easy, or in the middle, then I'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I can
There
tell
was a
you that
selection committee,
there
I
was,
believe.
I was on the selection committee, and we interviewed each of the firms individually in person here in Town Hall.
Okay.
And in my opinion, they were by far and away the most qualified, at least on paper. You
Well,
know,
a lot of
because
people
you've
thought
only
that
got-
too.
You know
They
that.
passed it around.
Well, you know, your first meeting is your first meeting. That was our first meeting.
Actually, they just won an award at a recent conference for their plan for Burlington, Vermont.
Yeah, they did.
So was there a list of contractors that was provided by Southern New Hampshire or New Hampshire Housing Finance that we sent the bids to, or was it just an open?
I
thought
thought
there
it was
was-
I
open,
think it was
but
just an open
Was
request.
there?
I believe it was just an open.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I would hope that would be the case, because if they gave us the list, I would be not happy with
Yeah,
that.
no, I'm sure it was an open
it
request for
wasn't open.
proposal.
You know,
Usually
just one more
is.
infringement. Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public who'd like to comment? Now's the appropriate time.
All right. A couple of things. One is just I just want to raise, but the other is your letter is very logical and it makes perfect sense to me. But as you know, with the government, logic doesn't always prevail. So, reading the grant, it did seem to sound to me as though part of the deliverables was we had to somehow get that voted down, that smart code, in some official capacity. Wouldn't it be more prudent just to protect ourselves and do that for all the time it would take them to just take the vote?
Well, who voted down? The board.
The planning
board
board.
did vote it down.
Not the smart code, they did not.
They only voted down the plan.
Well, I know, but you can't have the smart code without the plan.
Yeah, they kind of go hand in hand.
I
and That's why
know.
we're writing this letter to New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. If they approve it, then that's where it ends.
Because I just hate to leave the door open, even a crack for any problems
I
to
think-
come, because it is,
I think
when
the
you read the
letter-
grant, it seems as though you have to do something with that code ordinance
I
part of
think
it.
the letter speaks to that.
Yeah, but like I said,
letter.
I just get nervous that logic doesn't always rule, and sadly it doesn't, but, so if he doesn't answer you in a certain amount of time, or if you don't get a real conclusive answer from him, as I know that's been an issue in the past, can we just get it before the planning board and let's get the official part done, so that the town can go, okay, we're done with this, and it's finally in the grave?
That's an option if he doesn't respond.
Okay, is there a time limit that you're gonna get, not in the letter, but in your mind, that you have to hear from him?
Yeah, I
We'll-
think within a week he'll
Oh, yeah, we'll
respond.
follow up, believe me, we'll.
All right, I'm just concerned, because I don't want this to come back at us
We're-
a year
we're
from now, you
concerned as
didn't do
well.
this, you
We're
know?
We are
concerned as well.
concerned too, that's why we tried to cover ourselves in that letter.
Okay. Now, somebody brought something to my attention, so I did a little research, and I'm concerned that our town may be in the same position after.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, you have to state your name for the record, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry, Cheryl Anderson, and Joffrey Street in Penardville. Sorry about that. I know some of you know me.
Sorry,
so
I know who you are,
assume-
but,
Yeah.
but formalities are formalities.
And the minute taker
And the
does
minute
it from the
taker needs to-
DVD.
Oh,
so.
okay, I'm sorry. An issue came up in Salem. Could I read you just this brief article, because it may affect us, I think? It's they officially pulled out of Granite State Future, which I don't know if you all know, that's the group that the regional planning commissions are under, including Southern New Hampshire. It says Salem Selectmen voted 4-1 on January 14th to finally pull out of a regional planning initiative that was been debated back and forth for months. The planning project titled Granite State Future will still go forward. Salem will just not have a seat at the table of discussions. Selectman Stephen Campbell said he does not subscribe to the philosophies of the group, nor does he believe that Salem's voice will be heard if the town was a member. He said that Granite State Future's outcomes are predetermined by their philosophies. And then he stated, you don't have to believe in conspiracies to disagree with the philosophy behind this. They appear to not be impressed with private property rights or private water rights, and they want to do all this collectively. Now, I won't read the whole rest of the letter, but because it just basically is saying what happened to them. But in conjunction with that, there was an article that in Salem, there was a question of whether the selectmen knew the town manager had signed a memorandum of understanding with Granite State Future, a program promoted by the regional planners. After several people viewed a recent copy of Salem's municipal partnership agreement from the Granite State Future, they concluded that the document lists Salem as, quote, committed to sign the MOU, which is the memorandum of understanding, and that signing this MOU and/or the subsequent agreement will remove all local control, from the Board of Selectmen and place all land resource management in the hands of federal agencies such as DOT, HUD, and EPA. These agreements, although couched in the terms of local control and stakeholders, are not at all under the control of the local selectmen. So what bothers me is, did we, since we are involved with Granite State Future, did we sign any kind of agreement? Are we a municipal partnership with them? Do you know, you as a selectman, did anybody in the town sign us on?
Now, to the best of my knowledge, we never
'Cause I
signed a
know-
memorandum of understanding.
Okay,
with them.
or a municipal partnership agreement? Because I've tried to call them and all I
We
get is
can,
answering
we can
machines.
confirm that for you, but to the best of my knowledge, this town has never done that.
Because I would hate to see our town be in the control of the federal government. Because I know David Priest, who's the executive director, was a stakeholder in this whole plan Penarville, and he's now running the Second Street. So I'm concerned that somewhere along the line that could have happened.
Let us research that and get
Okay.
back to you on that.
Previous board members, I don't know.
I don't believe so, but we will get back to you on that and make sure that we can confirm.
I
Okay.
remember they just asked to put something in the clerk's office, for a survey type of
Yeah.
thing. That's all I remember.
Because they seem so involved in our town. I mean, Joanne Duffy on zoning is under the Board of Commissioners, and, Henry Boyle is Budget Committee, he's their Board of Commissioners, Barbara Griffin's their Chair, former Board of Commissioners, so it seems like they're all in our really controlling boards that
Well,
control
our-
the town, and that bothers me that they've got these tentacles out there, and this could,
Yeah, the
Calm down on
Southern
New
New
Hampshire
Planning
Planning
Commission Board of Directors are representatives from every community. I forget how many
Member
communities.
communities.
the Board of
13,
Commissioners,
I
yeah.
believe.
So,
But
every
that's
meeting
different.
on their Board of Directors holds some kind of spot in the
Okay.
town.
But that's
They're-
different than signing on to,
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I just wondered, though, if we had, and I noticed that some towns, like Chester and Raymond, have nobody involved with their, so that's why I wondered. I know there have been a lot of issues with towns that have become members of ICLEI, which I'm sure you know what that is. I know that Wolfboro pays $1,200 a year in tax money as dues for ICLEI, and I think Epping and Keene also belong, and I don't know if we do. I certainly hope we don't. I know there's a fourth town, and they don't say on the website who it is. But, Oh, Nashua? Okay. All right, because they are the ones that actually, I think, oversee most of the funds down to the other planning commissions in this area. So, it's just nerve-wracking to see all this coming up.
Cheryl, what's ICLEI?
Okay, I can tell you right here. The International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. They're not a good group, let's put it that way. But,
personal opinion.
yeah, well, yeah, if you reach, it's scary, they're a scary group. But I'm just concerned that we're gonna get too deep into a lot of these grants and a lot of these programs, and we're gonna end up more and more on the hook, and we're gonna lose our control. You guys will have no say in anything, ultimately.
Now, that can't happen unless we allow it to happen, and I know I've lived in Goffstown for 30 years, and I know our community is far too sharp to let that
I would
happen.
hope so, yeah, but,
Okay.
okay. All right, those were my concerns.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Yes.
As you know, I'm Katie Benner from 12 Joffrey Street, and I've become a regular here. And I'm not here to start trouble or to try to chastise anybody. I'm here because I care, all right? I really do. And I just don't want to get involved with the government, and I don't want my town to be bankrupt. I don't want anybody to take my front yard, my backyard, all right? I just want things to be good, all right? And I just want to hold on to my little 100 by 100 lot. That's all what I want, and that's why I'm here again. First of all, I would like to say that I'm still a little nervous about these HUD programs. Very, very nervous, because they're hitting up everybody. As a matter of fact, they're doing a presentation this evening regarding 2nd Street. And I pulled some information. There's New Hampshire Community Planning grants. They're giving money here, there, and everywhere. And Alton, workforce housing, Amherst, water resource protection, Bedford, pedestrian and bicycle master plan, Bow, density transfer credit. That's really very scary. Transfer of development rights ordinance. So it sounds like everybody's gonna be signing over their land to the government. You know, we're really, really nervous about all this. And I would like to first ask, I did go see Sue today, and she was very gracious. She answered a lot of questions I had. Thank you very much. And it doesn't seem like we have a rule of books. We don't have a charter. We don't have rule of books, and the rules are all over the place. I just came in today and see if I could get a documentation. I'm going to ask this again this evening. I should be able to get a documentation in particular to this grant that was accepted, all right? You have to have a piece of paper showing that you had authority to sign off on this. This is what I'm asking. Because that should be put in the file, all right? And it's hard to find any information. Sue gave me RSA numbers, and geez, I pulled that up today, and just under New Hampshire town laws, all right, there was 2,747 pieces of information I would have to look through to find this. So,
Or if it's on a particular grant that you're asking about, you were asking about all grants.
well, let's start with one particular grant then.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
make it easier. Maybe I didn't phrase my question,
Okay.
correctly, but could I possibly get, a piece of paper showing that the selectmen had the right to apply for this grant and had a right to accept this
Accept.
grant?
Yes, that right was given to them by a town meeting in either 1993 or 1994.
Okay, instead of me searching through all this, because I'm finding it very overwhelming, okay, you probably know better, so I'm trying to practice my right to know of this, all right? I
Okay,
just
get you a
wanted to
copy of
see,
that article.
to see what the guidelines are. I mean, we don't want you folks to get us in trouble again, okay? I'm not trying to say this to be fresh.
I don't think we got you in trouble at all.
Well, it just took it took us to fight, tooth and nail,
And I would say that's the process. That's what makes this country great.
Well, it's an exhausting process, and if you see all these people that don't want these things, it should have ended a long time ago. It shouldn't have taken 600 signatures, meeting after meeting. I mean, I can rehash all this, but this was ridiculous. It was outrageous, and it was a stupid plan to begin with, all right? Everybody agreed that. So anyhow, we don't want to go through this again, so we want to see what your authority is, okay? And if the authority is too lenient, we have to change the rules somehow, some way. We have to make it so that before you accept these grants, okay, we, the people, have to vote on this, all right? You can't just take something and we will suffer the outcome with. We can't let that. There's got to be a rule that changes.
Yeah, I can tell you this, the authority is founded in state law and statute. That's the founding principles. And from there, the statute gives municipalities the authority to take certain actions, one of those being to accept grants, apply for and accept grants and expend them, going through the proper process, and the process is all laid out in state law as to how the process must flow. And we have to follow that state law as anyone would, and as we did in this process. So
There was a public hearing. What the state law says, that if you give the selectmen the authority, which town meeting gave the selectmen the authority to accept and expend money from any source, whether it's grants or donations, but they're required to notice a public hearing 7 days prior to that public hearing. And that public hearing was held, and there was probably no public input, because we haven't had public input until this plan.
Well, this gets back to my request for signs. All right, I'm going to come and ask for a sign again. I must have asked for a sign maybe 100 times. I brought pictures this time, okay? We're not asking for the deluxe model, okay? And I didn't even bring prices, but we need to get a sign, perhaps at the fire station. Maybe that would be a good location. Someplace close to the school, so when the parents are dropping off their kids, I mean, at the school it would be ideal, but we have to have the authority to put things that we want. If we put it at the school, if the school's having a function and we're having a meeting, the meeting has to go on the sign, not the school function. So maybe we can have a double sign. It might be an eyesore, but, we need to be able to have the right to know, because if you don't look at the newspaper the right day, or if you don't look at the notes, you're going to miss this. And this is so important that we cannot afford people missing these meetings. So please, okay, I saw at the budget meeting, all right, that everybody else is represented. We have Parks and Reps, we have the water, the schools. No one represents the residents, all right? I don't think we've ever asked anything, have we, at public at a public budget meeting, we want a sign. Please give us a sign. All right? That's part of the petition, too, okay? These are pictures. We're not fussy. We're not looking for the deluxe model, okay? Just something so we know what's going on, please, all right? Because we don't want this to ever happen without notification.
Well, I just want to say, there is notification. We're, by law, we have to put it in the newspaper, which we do, and we also have to post it in 2 public places and
We do.
and our website, and that's where it goes.
But where's the public places, though?
The library and town hall, and then the website is the third.
So at least the library's in here, Main Street, but there's nothing in Pinardville, It makes it inconvenience. We have a lot of elderly people that don't
Have web access.
That don't have web access, okay?
That's why we put it in the newspaper, yeah.
Yeah, but if you don't
Well-
hit it the right day, though,
Yeah, that's true.
And we can
some
do
of them
that.
can't even,
And that's certainly a possibility. First thing we need to do is find a location where we can do it, then we have to budget for it. So we gotta get the monies for it, which means, it has to be approved by somebody in somebody's budget to purchase signs, maintain the signs, pay for electricity to run the signs.
I know what you're going to say.
But
We, at Station 19, at the Pinardville Station, on the side of the station, we have that signboard, that
You have a community message board
community
on the
message
side.
board. I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
not
saw that.
making
You
one, so-
can't,
have to drive in
no,
and get out
you
to
have to
look at
drive in, you have to know it's there. That's not acceptable.
Nick?
That's not acceptable. And I was wondering, the emergency signs.
He has a question,
Okay.
he shed some light.
Well, it was not a question, but I think that's the beauty of our system in that residents have direct input into the government. We keep it very local. And in a situation like this, it would not be out of the ordinary for the residents that you get together to put a petition warrant article together, indicating how much it would cost, and have the town vote to purchase those signs and put them in those locations. So as a last resort, if you didn't get any satisfaction from the local boards, the residents can do that under state RSAs and actually go to the voters and request that these things be done.
And I can
Yes,
help
well-
you because that petition looks a little different from the petitions you've been handing in, and I'd be glad to give you the format of that type of petition for town meeting.
And there would
warrant.
also need to be some rules set up as to who can put messages on the board, the content of the messages, how long they stay there. So there's a lot of moving pieces that would need to come together, but it's certainly possible, it's doable.
So we have to go through all this just to get a sign? You were able to accept a grant for $50,000. Okay, I'm not trying to be terrible, we didn't know about it, without us knowing, all right? And I have a petition, with all these signatures, and part of the petition is a sign. Just give us our sign, and then we won't come, and complain about this again. It'll be ended. You won't have to see us anymore, If you give us a sign, we'll shut up, That's what I'm saying. Don't make us go through a whole big petition, all right?
And if I could, I wasn't suggesting that that's how you had to do it. I'm saying the way our system is, as a last resort, the residents can take the power and move to do something, even if the boards, whichever boards they are, don't listen. But I don't think that's a bad, the signs that we purchased, the emergency signs, we purchased 50 of them for $15,000. So they're not large
Oh, are those-
budget items.
Was that the emergency signs that
The
were
the
sharing?
4-foot signs, so they're relatively inexpensive. If you get into the large multicolor television type, those are much more expensive. But simple message boards, networkable that you can control from one location, are fairly inexpensive. So that may be something that we could look into
Are
as a
those
budget item.
LED message boards?
Yeah, super bright LED.
And how much were they,
Yes,
Nick?
We purchased 50 of them, and our total cost was $15,000.
Manchester?
Manchester, yeah.
Fire department?
$300 a piece, it's not a...
Yeah, roughly.
$300 a piece, that's it?
That's it.
Oh, my God.
For the signs,
They bought
and then,
50.
then it was about $200 for the wireless, depending on the options you want. It can,
How
but
big were they, did you say?
they're 4-foot signs. I believe the characters are 7 inches. They're visible at 200 feet. Well,
Okay.
they're dedicated to public safety messages. We're limited to
That's
how we can
Manchester,
use
though,
them.
right? You're talking about Manchester, or
Yeah,
are
and
these ours?
Goffstown's getting
The ones that we're giving to the surrounding communities are all limited under the rules of the grant to be used for emergency
that's what I
preparedness
explained to you the
only.
other night, Katie.
Well, I was trying to get double use of them. I said,
Yeah.
when it's not an emergency, see, I was trying to
Told
save
you
some
that
money.
wouldn't happen.
I appreciate that.
But, yeah, but I don't see why that can't be done, though.
Well,
if you're
and
not
it is.
using them-
They do allow, if it's not an emergency, they allow public safety messages. For instance, school is in session, be careful of children, things like that. They have to be safety related.
Well, my messages would be more important, though, but anyway.
I don't,
But for $300.
I don't disagree with you.
Tonight, you will buy us a sign, can you say that? You'll buy us a
Can't say-
sign for
I can't tell you that because it hasn't been budgeted anywhere.
The selectmen are gonna be doing their budgets in the
Yeah.
month of October, and by the end of October, they'll be
We
concluding.
can consider it, but as of right now, there's no money in any budget for it. But we,
No, really, this is ridiculous. We're not asking for much, you know?
Could we
There's-
start with getting the prices for 3 or 4 signs, or 1 sign, and see how many we would?
Where would you want this? At the fire department in Penardville?
well,
Let's cross
think about
that.
it. Yeah, let's think about that.
Let's see what
find
the
out
cost of the
what
signs
the
are.
unit
Well, you
costs
just
are.
said, though, how much it was.
Mhm.
All right, if you have the company, you know,
Well,
companies
let's
say,
think-
oh,
let's-
we wanted an
And
extra
I'll
one.
give you that
Let's
information.
do some research. Let's find out the unit cost, the locations in various areas around town. It's not just Penardville. There's the Village and Grassmere
Grassmere,
and
Hollywood one.
Parker Station and, all other locations in town where they may be appropriate as well. So let's look at the cost and where the appropriate locations might be.
Okay, so this is official now. You're gonna be looking into the prices. You're gonna see,
We'll
there's
research it.
also, you said that there was a, extra money from last year. Remember, you showed us a fund that,
Oh,
was
yeah,
extra
that
money.
takes a vote at town meeting to use
Yeah.
that money, though. The unassigned fund balance,
Yeah.
is that the one you're talking about?
unassigned, yes.
Yeah, that takes a vote at town meeting to use any money from there.
Okay, well, anyhow, we would prefer we wouldn't have to go through, another voting on this because we're
But
asking for
understand, we
this.
have to follow
Okay,
the process
so-
because, this group of people may find this to be an important topic, and it is. But there are other groups of people in town who feel that their efforts are important too, and they're going to say, well, you gave them money, we want. So it's not as easy as it sounds. There's a process we have to follow to make sure it's transparent, it's compliant with state law and our local ordinances, and that we can't be challenged on it. That's all. We're trying to be careful to protect all of the residents and taxpayers in Goffstown.
So can
And
you
it's-
give us an idea of the time frame when we're gonna know if we can, are you saying if it's a reasonable price, if it's $500 and you find the money in the fund, can you do it now, or does it have to go on the?
You're trying to make us commit to something tonight, and we're not going to do that. We cannot do that. What we are committing to is doing the research for you. We're going to look into the unit costs
Okay,
and whereabouts in town it might be appropriate to put signs. And if you want to suggest some locations, that would help us.
well, the fire station, the school would be better because people drop off the kids at the school, but are they
See,
gonna?
now you got to be careful because remember, the school is separate from the town.
I
Separate
guess it would have
budgets,
to be at the
separate.
fire station in Penardville. That's the only place I can think of. Either that or by the clock, maybe? Is that like, public property over there, by the clock?
I'm not sure, is that public?
The
Right at
little triangle there?
Yeah, the triangle.
Cody's Corner.
Rotary Park?
But anyhow, if you,
Is that Rotary Park?
I guess,
That's Rotary Club.
someplace where, I don't know, wherever people travel the most. Closer to the school, the better, because people would see it. Okay, so that is, that was a request, all right? And then I would like to read a little something here that I already read for the Budget Committee, and Mr. Lemay has copies of some of the stuff I submitted, but anyhow, I'll read it again because you folks haven't heard this, okay? But I would like to start by saying that we, the people of Goffstown, are not all upper class and wealthy. On the contrary, okay, we have many people that are struggling to keep their homes and to pay our high real estate taxes. Okay, but I guess there's a lot of places it's as high. It's the economy, right? We have seniors on Social Security without pensions, okay, unemployed people, residents working only part-time, and residents that had to take big pay cuts in order to find another job. Okay, we have residents that don't even make $14 an hour. And despite all of this, okay, we're mostly homeowners, and we just want to say, again, that we want to keep our existing homes that are very modest, and we want to keep our single-family neighborhoods. And in saying all this, okay, in watching some of the selectmen meetings and the planning board meetings, we did notice, okay, that the budget is coming up right now. A lot of people are presenting their budgets. And we noticed that on page 6 of page 16, on the August 26, 2013 meeting, there was mention that there's a cost of a good portion of $2.5 million that it's costing us to include retirees in the pool of our town health insurance plan. All right, and this is not something that we have to do by law, because I did call the retirement system, and I spoke to someone, and that's not required. We do not have to include our retired people in our insurance pool. Because they're older, it's making everybody's costs go up, and it's costing us a good portion of that $2.5 million. Again, if we could take that money and save it, and I think it'd be more appropriate to put it through a school that we're going to need in no time, because the kids are learning out of the parking lot. So let's take everything that we could save here and there, and let's put it to the school. For later on, we can build a school. Okay, so that's my opinion on that. All right. Another thing that we could save on.
Just to comment on that, okay? Those things are negotiated under contracts.
I think Sue wanted to comment.
Yeah, is that what you were going to comment on?
I was going to comment that there is a state law, and I'd love to know who you talked to at the retirement system, because there is a state law that requires municipalities to offer insurance to retirees, their retirees, at the same plan that active employees have. However, the town of Goffstown has chosen never to pay for those. So we don't pay the premiums. Retirees pay their premiums on the health insurance. But we are, by state law, required to offer them the plans that we offer to active employees. So I'd love to know who you talked to there, because I'd love to discuss
Well, I
it
don't want
with
to
them.
say any names, on
not on
record. I
TV.
don't want
If
to,
you would
get
email
anybody
me,
in
though,
trouble.
I-
But the phone number I dialed was 603-410-3500, and that was the state retirement system. Okay, and they told me it was not the law, okay, and the people that are 60 years old and over, they qualify for Medicare, just like we do.
She
so
was.
they can
She
take
probably
Medicare.
thought. Maybe she thought, or whoever you talked to, thought you were asking if we were required to pay. We're not required to pay,
Well, I thought
and we don't pay.
Okay, but I thought I asked it correctly. Do we have to offer retirees insurance at the active employee prices?
And she may have interpreted that as meaning something different than what you were asking. I don't know. what
But
the
she told me it
conversation
was not law. Okay,
But I can
that's-
send you the RSA on that.
Okay, all right, that'd be good.
But Sue, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, we offer it to them. If they choose to accept it, they pay the premiums.
They pay
100%.
100% of the premiums.
Unless
We
they
just
have a
offer them the
subsidy.
opportunity to be insured. We don't
Right.
They
pay.
don't pay the same premiums as yours.
Oh, yes, they do.
Okay, let's say your premium is, what, $300 a month. Do they pay the same premium as you do, or do they pay higher?
There's two different things. There's premiums and employer contribution. They get no employer contribution. They pay the 100% of the premium.
Which means the town does not pay any portion of it.
Right.
Except for it makes our, yeah.
Correct. It can adversely affect our rates.
That's a lot of money, though,
Yes.
$2.5 million. And I believe the auditors mentioned that also.
They did.
So is that $2.5 million a year it costs us, or is that every couple of years? I wasn't clear on that.
That's the accumulation over years.
Over years, all right. Because there was some pages that I couldn't find in the packages. They were referring to page 45, that talks about other post-employee benefits, and there was no pages like that.
Yeah, I don't believe the audit was online, but that's something I can have the finance director get up online.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can follow that.
Okay, so we can
Okay.
get copies of that page 45 to see what it
You
says.
can have a
Very
copy
good.
of the whole audit
Okay.
online, okay?
All right, thank you. Another thing that we wanted to try to save on is that $140,000 that Brian was asking to finish the master plan. And he was looking to go to the same companies, okay, that have done work for Londonderry and Bedford, and they're all getting into the smart code. That is something, again, we're very nervous about, and we don't want him to have that money for $140,000 to go try to do another plan that includes a smart code for the rest of the town.
Let me just clarify on that, okay? Goffstown has a master plan. They've had it since the 60s. And it's updated every 5 years? Sue, is that right?
5 to 10 years.
Every 5 to 10 years, okay? You have to update, you have to have a master plan in place in order to develop building regulations and those sorts of ordinances. So there's a progression of steps you have to follow that leads to whatever the town considers to be an orderly development of the town. But it's controlled by the town. That money is intended to allow us to update that master plan. And as I say, it's been in place since the 60s. And I've served on a couple of the master plan updates. And it's groups of citizens working on different aspects of the master plan. They may work on conservation, they may work on planning, they may work on financing, they may work on schools and community involvement. So there's a whole bunch of different chapters in the master plan. And you can find that online as well. So So that money is intended to update that master plan because it hasn't been updated in quite a while.
But if the citizens and residents and the planning board is all gonna work on this, all right, why do we have to go hire an outside consultant and pay $140,000? And especially to these towns that he was looking into, this is online, okay, in the minutes, okay, I have the minutes. He's looking into the same places that did Londonderry and Bedford, and they're all, Bedford probably doesn't even know it, but they're getting hit with the smart code right now. Okay, there's videos on their town, okay, and it's all talks about smart code. I think they're just voting on it. That's another
Yeah,
point that's
that
being
money,
sucked
that
in.
money was probably money, that was a budgeted number. $140,000 was probably a number that was budgeted to update the master plan. Again, that's not gonna go forward without input from and concurrence by the town of Goffstown. I mean, these things don't go forward without our support and without our blessing. I mean, they just don't, but.
Well, okay, again, you know, the experience
just
we've
add
had is bad, okay, so we don't want another bad experience, that's what I'm saying.
Understood.
So, I would like to be maybe part of this master plan
Great.
planning, okay?
Great.
And why can't we take, maybe documents that are already online for someone else's town? That doesn't have to do with the smart code, that is, okay? We just don't want anything to do with that smart code. But save $140,000, and maybe you can actually do work with that. Give it back to the businesses. You know, let's
My
take that
experience with
money
this-
and, you know?
My experience in this community, they've never been bashful about pirating public domain information like that. If there's already information out there, we take full advantage of that. But Nick,
And what I was going to say, that request for $140,000 at this point is just that. It's a request, and it's one request out of numerous requests from all the department heads and departments. And that CIP matrix will come to this board, and we're going to look at each one. Collectively, it's a very, very large request. There's not that much money to go around, and we have to look at each of those requests, figure out which ones we can save money on, which ones we have to push off, and that may be a very good example of something where this board decides, maybe we can do it in-house for less money or whatever. But at this point, it's simply just a request.
Well, this is why I'm here, before it
Understood.
gets passed, okay? Just to bring it to your attention,
And
all right?
just so I can tell you, we're running up against the time constraint. We've got budget presentations at 7. I don't want to hurry you.
Okay,
And I
all
don't
right,
know if there's
all
other
right.
people who want to speak. I just want to
Okay.
make sure everybody can be heard.
All right. And also, it was upsetting to see the Sewerage Commission tape on September 10th, the same night that Mr. Burt was having his meeting. Okay, and then we went to look at the notes on September 16th, and St. A's, okay, wants to connect to the Sewerage. All right, they're going another route now. They were supposed to go, I guess, behind the property or something. Now they're going a more direct route. But I think either way, okay, the pipes have to be updated. The pipes are too small to try to fit in, more plumbing for 150 students, all right? The pipes cannot take it. And the way I was reading it, it doesn't sound like St. A's is going to pay all of it, all right? And I'm saying let them pay all of it, not just a little bit, all of it, okay? It could be $100,000. And I know there's separate surge fees and all that, but the surge, what you put in and take out, for surge and water, that's a separate bill. But I'm talking about connection. And they mentioned something about $100,000. They have more money than God. They charge over $50,000 for each student without,
Let me
without,
speak to that item since I am the Board of Selectmen's rep on the Sewer Commission, okay? St. A's is responsible for 100% of the sewer construction, from the dormitory down to the town sewer line. 100% of that cost. And then they pay sewer user fees just like anybody else does. The sewer is an enterprise fund. It's paid for by the users. It doesn't cost the town of Goffstown anything. Anybody who's connected to it pays a fee to use it, certainly, as you would expect. I would hope anybody would expect. That's how they run, are able to maintain those sewer lines. So I just want to be clear that St. A's is paying 100% of the sewer line construction down to the town line.
okay. Well, anyhow, that's not what it was noted on the notes, okay? I would like to dispute that because that's not what it was noted on the notes.
Well, I was at the meeting. Again, I'm the board's rep on it. And
They said
that's,
maybe a portion, okay? They said $100,000 and they said a portion.
oh, no, wait a minute. Now, there are portions of the town line that are damaged and need repair. It's the Sewer Commission's line. They're older lines that have cracks and have bad joints that need to be repaired, and St. A's has agreed to contribute to upgrading some of those. This is outside of St. A's property. So they're paying 100% of the line down to the town sewer line, and then they're gonna contribute to upgrading the town sewer line because it has what they call infiltration. And in other words, it's groundwater seeping in, because we pay for every gallon of water we send to Manchester to be treated, we pay for every gallon. So if there's water coming in through groundwater or illicit connections, they call them, we're paying for that. And so to upgrade those lines to make them more watertight is in everybody's best interest. And St. A's has agreed to participate in some form of cost sharing, which is above and beyond what they really need to be doing, so.
Well, could I ask records of that, once it's decided how much it costs and how much they're paying? Okay, could it be an official request for copies? Okay.
Yeah.
Should be in the
Because-
minutes, right?
Yeah, it is in the
Because the reason why we're gonna be digging up over there is because they're building new dorms, all right? And they have more money than we do, all right? So I just wanna make sure that they pay everything they're supposed to pay, all right?
Okay, that's
Because
fair enough.
in the meeting, it didn't sound that way,
That's
so,
fair enough, they are.
all right? And it's, you know, they own a lot of property, all right? And they get a lot of money from, they just got a settlement from Tyco, okay, for $2 million from that Tyco situation, okay? $2 million, and they're gonna have that money so they can do research and programs on sustainable living. This is what we just went through. So,
Well, that's St. A's business.
right,
Do you have
right.
more?
But
Because if there's
it
other.
boils down to that. I just want to make sure they pay their own share, their share.
Oh,
That's all.
absolutely, absolutely,
Okay.
and they will.
All right,
They will.
and also, please, there's going to be a big refund, I guess, on LGC. Okay, that third-party administrator. That okay, there's like $180,000. Again, please be very frugal with that money, and if you can put it to good use, maybe towards a school project later on, that would be good too. All right, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I give her the RSA number?
Sure.
I found it. It's 100-A.
Okay, was this for?
This is for the medical insurance for retirees.
Oh, okay, for the medical insurance?
Yes.
Okay. Oops, okay. RSA,
100-A,
okay.
50. It requires us to offer the same health insurance, but there's also a provision that we can subsidize it, but we don't.
Okay, so 100 dash A colon 50. Okay,
Yep.
great, thank you so much.
Bill, did you want to comment? Bill, did I see you want to? I can't run the camera for you, but I can certainly have you come forward and comment. Okay, here we go. The assistant camera.
Bill Wynn, Master of Goffstown, New Hampshire. I will keep this brief. I just want to know if Selectman Devanza, who is not here tonight, will be signing the letter going to Mr. Frost.
His name is. on
Okay,
one of the
so
lines,
his
yes.
signature will end up on that letter?
Yes.
And is he on an excused absence or just not showing up? Did he call in?
He called in, yes, he did.
Okay. And speaking of the public notices, I've got over 7,000 readers. I'd feel free to send them to us. We won't charge you anything. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
Just one more thing
Certainly.
about public notice. I get things all the time from the police department on my phone.
Nixel? Nixel?
In Excel.
Yeah.
I mean, is it possible that could be part of that program? I mean, I really don't care for, I don't care personally if somebody's got their road down because of construction or whatever, because it's out here, it doesn't affect me. But if they could somehow, whoever does that little typing, type in meeting, blah, 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 what time, at least then people would know, you could put an article in the paper and say, sign up for Nixel.
Yeah, I'm not
Not
sure if that can only
everybody
be
is
used for
smart.
public safety, though.
Yeah, to see that they're,
Are there restrictions on how you can use Nixle?
Alerts, community events, and
That's a-
advisory messages. My concern is, I often end up sending out nixels at 3 o'clock in the morning when I get woken up at home to send them out.
Yeah.
So I'm very restraining on how and who sends them out. So,
Well, that's fine. I mean, I'm
Well, if I
saying
may.
you send them out. You know what I mean? I'm not saying we would send it, but whoever it has the authority to do that.
it's fairly time consuming and I believe we're down to only 54 characters or 64 characters per message. So,
you know what, we'll look into the suitability.
Yes.
What we can do is we'll look into the suitability of Nixle for distributing those types of community interest messages, I'll call them. Nick, did you have a?
Well, I was just going to say, Nixle, we use that in the city as well, and it's not just fire or police. Our Public Works has a Nixle account, the school department has a Nixle account, so we could look at getting a Nixle account just for public notices, so that, and it wouldn't be through the police department, maybe it comes through administration, where those types of public meetings come out.
Very briefly.
I was receiving messages regarding everything that was going on, basically with Plan Penardville.
In
Okay,
Facebook?
there was a
Thank you,
big
folks.
list. We were all, there was a lot of us on that list.
Email list.
Can we
Email.
stay on that, can we stay on that list for, could we be notified of things?
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
were on that list, would that make sense?
Thank you. That was for the Plan Penardville.
I think Brian Rose had that email.
Right.
Brian, yeah. And now that we're done, I mean, we have no need to continue it. We're done.
We could have a sign-up list and put like constant contact or something, push out messages like that. And have them sign up. I could look into that. I don't know what the cost of constant contact is, but that would be an easy way to.
And that's one of the other
Push out
things with
messages.
Nixle is that it also sends emails. So an administrative type Nixle account, if people, we could take those lists, and it does allow people to opt in and sign up.
Didn't Nixle want to charge you for the emails?
They did, and then currently we still have emails. They wanted to charge everybody, but
Right.
there was a lot of pushback.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Just be on the list though,
For a public hearing list?
yes, a public hearing list.
We'd have to open it up to everyone to sign up for if they want public hearing notifications. Because I don't want to just start a list and not let everyone know that they could be on that list.
Okay, but listen, if you got further questions, contact Sue directly, okay? She can help you
Yeah.
with those specific
We
questions,
can
okay?
talk about that more.
Because we've got presentations we really need to get into. And the first one is the police department. But thank you for showing up and commenting, appreciate it. Good evening, Chief.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
So you want me to hold this till Phil gets back?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Question is, how's he gonna be when we let him go?
Let's see, police is the orange tab.
There are extra presentation handouts if anyone wants it, of the police budget. These are all online also, so anyone out there watching can follow these presentations online at www.goffstown.com.
Thank you.
Thank you. How are you? Very well. I'm going to hit the introduction portion of my presentation, some of the highlights on that. I believe everyone's got a written copy. We don't waste too much time. I'll get into the actual lines, the increases, and some of the major decreases on my lines, and I'll probably skim over the level funded items unless there are specific questions, and if asked at any time you have a question, please stop. Over the past several years, we've seen our calls for service increase greatly. I think if you flip through to page, the calls for service charts would be page 3. I hadn't included 2013, and I've got the numbers for July. In July, we have 11,189 calls for service. That's
Repeat that, I'm sorry.
11,189 calls for service as of July 31st, 2013. That's about 100 calls more than the total of calls we received in 2012. We're already tracking another 300 calls above that where we are right now. That's a huge concern to me. Results from our community survey, which we conduct biannually with the help of St. Anselm's College, indicate a continued request for increases of our services. Those are some of those increases, and I'll just skim over them, are traffic enforcement, preventative patrols, community policing programs, enforcement of drug laws, preventative patrols for the residential areas, community policing. the residents have indicated they want to see more, not less of these types of actions by the police department. In 2008, we were allotted 30 patrol officers for the police department. Since 2008, we lost one of those positions for funding, because of funding. It was not cut because there was a reduced number of calls or a reduced number of arrests. It was cut for monetary reasons. My concern is, with that cut, we're now behind the 8 ball, somewhere where I believe we may not come back from if we don't address it soon. As you can see on the bar graph after page 3, back to page 3, that our calls for service year by year continue to go up. Additionally, we project there will be over 20,000 calls for service this year, the first time we've broken that number. That's projected based on what we currently have and trying to extrapolate that out until the future, so with averages. The next graph you'll see is the burglary chart. Our burglaries, 2013, were only 42 as of August 10th. I can tell you that they've gone up at least 10 since then. So we're up to 52. We believe we'll be over 72 by the end of the year. That's home burglaries. Robberies are my largest concern. And I'll be honest with you, it scares the hell out of me. Currently, we have 5 robberies in town, armed robberies, not purse snatching, armed robberies, where they walk into a store with a gun, a knife, or a pipe, and they steal money from the person behind the counter. In addition to that, it's getting to be much more brazen, whereas the people doing the robberies are not just going into the store and robbing the clerk. They're now letting the customers in the store and then robbing the customers once they're in the store. That lends me to believe there's going to be a hostage situation. There's going to be an armed encounter sooner rather than later. It's a huge concern. It's a safety issue, not just for the police officers, but for all of the public and the clerk involved behind the counter. Theft from vehicles, 2013, as of 8/10 of 13, we have 73. Again, about 7 more than we had for the total of 2011, and over double what we had for 2012. And that's theft from vehicles. Theft of vehicles, we have 9 already this year from August 10th. The thefts, they're coming into yards, stealing cars. We've started campaigns. We've started what we call a Sarah project, that we try to address it through scanning, assessing the problems, and then getting out to the public. We've got cards that we're giving out to lock your vehicles. It's an educational piece of that. But unfortunately, we don't have the time or the manpower with the number of calls coming in to address that prevention portion of the puzzle. All other thefts are predicted also to be about 50 more than we were over last year. The calls for service are just coming in one after another. Years ago, we would be able to check our doors after about 2 o'clock in the morning, walk around and do physical checks of businesses. At this time, we're having calls for service held at 7 o'clock in the morning for the oncoming shift. We're that backed up. It's that big of a concern for us. In addition to the increase for calls for service, we're also experiencing a complexity of calls we're responding to. A robbery takes much more investigation, follow-up investigations, etc., than does a traffic stop. We're seeing a decline in our traffic stops, but we're seeing increases in the more serious offenses, therefore taking and requiring more hours to investigate these crimes. I'd like to take a few minutes to discuss the Bartell study. There's been a lot of talk for years about minimum staffing, how many people you should have on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In Goffstown now, we've stepped away from that for over the last 6 or 7 years. We do what we call as a Bartell study. The Bartell study uses a zero-based formula to determine the proper staffing levels for a community. It's based on not only the calls for service, but many other factors as well. The Bartell study we recently completed states that we should have 9 additional police officers than what we currently have. I will tell you right now, I am not here asking for 9 additional police officers. It's not reasonable. The Bartell formula is a zero-based manpower planning tool. It's not new to Goffstown, and it's been recognized by several administrations prior to mine. The Bartell study allows us to incorporate Goffstown unique characteristics into this zero-based manpower study. It deals with the ability for the community to afford police services, the willingness of elected officials to support police services, community need for services based on call volume to the community demand for services expressed at a level of tolerance citizens have for slow response, time to request for service, criminal activities, traffic accidents, congestion, and general disorder. It also deals with understanding the perception of police problems as stated by police officers and accepted as real by elected officials. The presence of backup support from nearby police departments. The kind and extent of non-police function required by the department, such as enforcement of local ordinances, animal complaints, motor vehicle lockouts, civil issues, public interactions, which I would add is a valuable part of what we do in Goffstown as a police department. And finally, the press and media interest in the coverage of the department's activities. In addition to these 8, it also addresses the number of specialty units, the response time, number of calls for service, the time spent on calls for service, and the number of officers required to handle a particular call for service, road miles in patrol and investigations, and the availability factors of officers. Currently, it takes our officer 35 minutes to handle a call for service, and that's on an average. The average time to handle a call and then finish the associated paperwork is 55 minutes. You start breaking that out with the amount of calls that we'll experience, it tends to expound itself rather quickly. These calculations for the Bartell study, what they don't take into account is also important. They don't take in time for clerical time, court time, personal time such as lunch breaks, bereavement leave or personal days, training, administrative duties, nor does it account for the position of chief, captain, or prosecutor. If I include in that 9 my 4 patrol sergeants, one's a detective sergeant, I then are down to 4 positions that I need. At this point, I am asking for 1 additional replacement police officer that was funded back in 2008 as part of my budget presentation. I believe we're currently at a critical level that will soon hit the point of no return as it relates to the service to the community and, more importantly, the response to calls from those we serve. We have heard the reports coming out of Manchester with the concerns of residents with home invasions, nighttime burglaries, and robberies. Without the manpower to properly investigate both personal and property crimes, maintain current levels of enforcement, and develop the present crime prevention strategies, we as a community will be asking the same questions on how do we make it safer. This budget that I will be presenting tonight has had a great deal of thought gone into it, and it's the lowest budget, reasonable budget that will meet the needs of the department and the community. And now I'll proceed through the budget. Salary line shows an increase of $88,457. Please realize that this salary line includes 2 separate bargaining units, one fully compromised within this line, and a second bargaining unit that has a portion of it. The other one is in communications budget, which we'll get to, but my records clerk would be encompassed in this line. Part of the reason for the increases is the 1 full-time officer position that is not additional officer, but simply bringing us back to the 2008 strength we had. The second factor driving this increase would be a part-time custodian for the police department. Currently we use David Roberge, who's spread very thin throughout the town. He is the current facilities manager, and I believe he's being underutilized in that position because of the requirements here at the police department. He's waxing floors, he's emptying trash buckets, and everything else. And with a 24/7 agency that we have, we generate a lot of trash. We come in the snow, we come in the rain and the mud, and more often than not, I myself have picked up a vacuum cleaner or a dustpan and a brush and a broom to clean up the area to make it look presentable to the public. So that's a concern. He doesn't have the time to be there all the time and the amount of time we need him to maintain that building the way it should be. Special duty wages were eliminated from the budget line because of the revolving account that went into place this past year. Overtime was level funded. Longevity is a 5% decrease. That's part of the reason we had retirement. With that retirement, there was a less need for longevity. FICA, Medicaid, Medicare, employee retirement are all increases that are pretty much out of my control. Those are set by the state or the insurance. Police retirement is a 10% increase, an increase of $54,187.50. It's worth noting that while this increase also is shifted down to the town, there's also a cost shifted down to the employees for greater contribution as well. So it's not just the town contributing, it's also the employee. Again, unemployment, workman's comp, and benefits are all increases pretty much out of my budgetary purview. Clothing and uniforms are level funded. Employee development, I'm asking for a 13% increase of $3,650. Currently, there are 2 officers in a bachelor's degree program. In addition to that, I have 2 officers enrolled in a master's degree program. With the educational incentive that we have of 50% reimbursement, there's also a payback or a contract signed with the officers or employees that are part of this educational benefit that they will guarantee so many years to stay, and if not, they have to refund the money. So it's not a blanket reimbursement. Also, communication supervisor Preventure is now an assessor for CALEA, the agency that accredits us. This is important to us. We obtain and get vital information from other agencies throughout the country as far as how they do business. One that comes to mind is our current propertyroom.com. Years ago, we were spending money on auctioneers that would come in, employee overtime to set up auctions. And since that time, we've gone to propertyroom.com. They have a truck that comes, picks up the inventory we have ready to be auctioned, takes it away, places it online, and then sends us a check. So there's a reduced cost to us, and it's this type of information that we're getting from CALEA that in the long run is well worth that investment. Bullet-resistant vest, there's a 54% increase. Last year, I believe we only received 4 vests. Because of the way the cycles are, every 5 years we replace them. We need more vests this year. Unfortunate, but we are working with the Department of Justice for 50% reimbursement. And the only concern is if that grant will or will not continue to fund those vests.
Chief, Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes,
ask you
sure.
a question? Did you include that 50% in the revenue side?
No, I did not, because at the time of this, and still, we're not sure.
Okay.
It usually comes in October or November for the following year that they are or are not going to have it. So, I don't know.
Have we gotten it
No.
in the past?
Yes, absolutely. The problem is, the funding for the last 2 years we were told it was going away. I don't know. So the money I have in here is for the full funding of the vest.
Okay.
Because if it goes away, we don't know.
Could you let me know if you find out before the selectmen conclude so we can add it on the revenue side?
Crossing guard equipment is level funded. Travel expenses have been decreased by 13%, $400. On through is legal, diversion, cleaning services, and photocopier contracts have all been level funded. Generator, Nespin, IACP Net, and HVAC have been level funded. Photo lab and photo lab expenses, they're combined under one line, but those two have been level funded. The crime lab has been level funded. Accident unit level funded. Intoxilizer expenses, an increase of $950. This includes the expenditures we're seeing on preliminary roadside breath tests that we can now do roadside, the tubes, the maintenance of those devices. In addition to that, we have to pay for the silica gel tubes on breath test of DWIs inside the station, as well as the mouthpieces, and then the accidents. Under state law, that they want 2 blood tests per victim of a serious bodily injury. So, of drivers, I won't say victim, excuse me, of drivers. So, if 2 people are involved in an accident, they want 2 blood tests an hour apart from each of you. So, that right there can jump us up into some pretty serious money when we're getting about $150 from the hospital per blood test. So we could be up to $300 for one person very quickly. I will say that it depends on what hospital we go to, which one charges us and which one doesn't, and I probably shouldn't say it out loud. However, because of the nature of the injuries and things, we don't always have control, and nor should we have control on where that person's going to the hospital.
A quick question on this. Now, if charges were brought against one of the drivers for driving under the influence, are these costs, can we recoup any of the costs?
It's up to the judge. And we do recoup some costs, and I think we've been averaging about $700 a month coming back to the town from the court for a variety of reasons. But first aid is level funded, operating supplies is level funded, postage, books, printing, all level funded. Furnitures and fixtures are an increase of $500. Our department is over 20 years old now, or close to it, and things are showing to wear. So we're trying to do stages of replacing chairs and desks, and if necessary, and things of that sort. So it's a slow process, but we're trying to take baby steps in that area. Computers and comm equipment level funded. Advertising a 33% increase. For public hearings, recruiting, hiring, found animals. While we're trying to do as much as we can via the internet, some of the requirements under the law are quite clear as what you have to put into the paper. Cell phones are level funded. Telephone repair level funded. Electricity, put level funded, but just for the record, it was a decrease of $88. It just didn't come out that way. Propane, decrease of 22% of $2,410. Water is an increase of 10% of $60. And then skip down to maintenance charges for vehicles. Everything else is level funded. Maintenance charges of vehicles put in for a 15% increase or $2,900. The last run of the Crown Victorias of 2011, and I'm not talking about the new cruisers, but the old model cruisers, we've seen transmission problems from them. These are fairly new cars. We start to exceed the mileage rather quickly as far as warranty work. We've seen radiator issues, transmission issues, things of that sort. We take the warranty when we can, but they're not being built like we had experienced in the past with other Crown Vics. We don't know if it's because they were in the process of retooling for the Interceptors or what, but the new Interceptors seem to be operating fine now. But it's a concern as our fleet grows older. We've seen reductions over the last 2 years, I believe, from 3 cruisers to 2 cruisers. And I think that's starting to catch up to us as well. Special equipment, there's a 10% decrease of $240. On this line, we do repairs to our ballistic shields, helmets, and other safety equipment, either repairs or replacement. Property insurance is a 20% increase. Maintenance supplies, 13% increase of $375. The line includes ice melt, landscaping materials, light bulbs, repair to electrical and water systems, locks, vacuums, and paper products. That's what I have. That's the police operation budget. Are there any questions on that?
Any questions from any members of the board? I don't have anything at this point.
Okay.
No? No?
I'll wait till
The communications salary line is an increase of $9,851. That increase applies to both the full-time and part-time lines, non-union personnel. The overtime line is level funded, longevity is level funded, FICA increased, Medicare, employee retirement, unemployment compensation was, the three of those were increases. Unemployment was level funded. Workman's comp showed a 20% increase of $165. Benefits showed an increase of $103. Clothing and uniform is an increase of 83%. I'm looking for a $950 increase. Currently, I've got 8 full-time dispatchers. They interact with the public on a daily basis. I'm looking from some, excuse the pun, some uniformity as they work within there and they encounter the people, and the people know who they're talking to and what their authority is and who they are. It's not a large amount that I'm looking for overall, but I think it's important for the professionalism of the dispatch center. Employee development would be a decrease of 13%. Spots, operating supplies, and books are all level funded. Printing and binding is a decrease of 20%. Furniture and fixtures, a decrease of 40%. Telecommunications, a 6% increase of $200. This involves the phone line that we currently have from station 17 to the Summit, the radio system. Maintenance charges for equipment is level funded. Tower electricity, level funded. Tower propane, level funded. And tower repairs, 17% increase, which equals $100. And that's to maintain our current levels of communications and attempts to improve. We've looked at sources of interference on both our towers, both down at the police department and on the Summit, and removing excess antennas, etc. They're causing interference. And that's my communications budget. Emergency management, there's only one increase. That's for cellular phones, $200. It is what it is. That's it. That's the only increase in that entire line. And that's all I have.
Before you go through your CIP.
Oh, yes. Currently in CIP, I've placed for 2014 3 vehicles. These are replacement vehicles, not additional vehicles. 2 of the SUVs, police interceptors, and they have, when I say police interceptors, I'm going to go SUV and sedan because they're both called interceptors, but there are 2 that I've applied for or requesting for the interceptor SUV and 1 sedan. As I've been in contact with the people that outfit these things, the light bars will maintain the same. There'll be no need to replace light bars from the sedan to the SUV. The problem is, and if there's pictures on the presentation, I believe you got them. The trunk space is much more confined in these new interceptors. Where we used to have the well for the spare tire, now part of the unibody where they have the tire in there and it cannot be removed because it applies to its crash impact rating. So it makes it less safe if we take the spare tire out. As you can see, I believe Officer Babcock's in the following picture. Officer Babcock's about 6'2". We basically take a shoehorn and wedge him in there with that. There's no room to move around. They work in these cars 12 hours a shift. And for 1 mile an hour less per gallon for the SUV over the sedan, and I believe it's only about $1,300 more for the SUV over the sedan. I think for the comfort and the storage of equipment, that it's well worth the investment over the long run.
So Chief, these 3 vehicles total $108,309
Yes, with the changeovers.
with the changeovers. Thank you.
And it's important to note that these vehicles, once they come off the front line, are rotated into detectives, administrative cars, and then after that are sent to public work or Parks and Rec for use in a third option. So once they get used by the police department and then recycled into administrative or detectives, they then get sent on. The next item is the HVAC. I have 2 units that are near failure. The third one was installed at the exact same time. They cover the booking room, the communications room, and the records room. Dave Oberge has been up there. I actually got up on the roof and went over with him. There's severe rust on these units, and he believes that he estimates that they run, excuse me, you get 10 to 15 years out of them. The 3 units, the 2 that are in the worst shape, but all 3 were installed in 2001. So we're coming up on the 13-year mark on these things, and by the time they're installed, it'll probably be the 14-year mark. So that's a concern.
Yeah, don't wait as long as we did.
Well,
That is easier.
they're showing signs of fatigues. You may get a few more years out of them, but then you may not. And then it involves getting the units, getting them up on the roof, et cetera, and installing them. So it's not something that can be done on an overnight thing, should they just fail. And that's my request for CIP for this year.
What about the parking lot expansion and
That's
the
not
entryway?
this, that's not this
Oh,
year.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, yep. Okay. Well, any questions for the chief?
I just have one question. I just gotta go back to it here. Chief, you talked about repairing your shields and stuff like that. The only question I have, if you repair that stuff and some of the guys get hurt, how does the liability work on that? Have we
When I say repair, we're not fixing crack shields.
Okay,
We're not
all right.
we're
Just minor,
fixing,
very
we have,
minor.
for instance, on one of our shields, we have a light.
Yep.
And if those lights, the wires become disconnected or something like that, we'll fix the light, but we will not fix a broken shield. Liability is too great for that.
Okay, all right, okay.
That would also include like lights on shotguns or something like that. Something more mechanical than actual physical items.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have questions for chief? Nick?
I do have something, if I go through. On the part-time custodian, didn't we have a part-time custodian?
Yes, we did.
When was that? When was the last time we had it?
2 years ago, I believe that position was cut.
Yes, you attempted to get it reinstated last
Last
year,
year.
and that didn't go.
We
and,
did have one, it just, I believe we were looking for budget concessions, and
Right, it was a tough year. I think
Yeah.
that was a default year,
I believe it was the default year,
that
and we were
we did
looking
away with that.
to get money from a variety of departments, and
Any other question?
I have a couple, if I could.
Yeah, sure. Right then.
On the communication salary line, you talked about what it was part of combination, part-time, full-time, but what is the increase? 9,800, 9,851, what is that increase due to?
part-time employees, in addition to, I've got Michelle Preventure, who is not in the union, so she'd be involved there. And
Oh, is this as a result of moving people around under the new, in other words,
I think that increase is combined between the salary lines, because it was broken out before. But can I get back to you on that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. On the clothing and uniforms, is that a requirement for clothing allowance? Is that contractual for your communications?
No, and I'm not looking for a clothing allowance. I am looking to issue a generic uniform that everyone will look the same. It's not going to be that they get X amount of dollars. It'll be, this is like we do with our police officers. It's a quartermaster system. Here's your shirt, here's your pants, maybe 2 shirts, because they're going to be working multiple days, some days 3 days in a row.
I understand, but I'm saying, how does that differ from an organization that says this is what the uniform is and the individuals go out and buy their uniforms?
I think if you dictate what the uniforms are, you have to supply them. I mean, if I say someone that they've got to have a gun belt and a shiny holster, and that you have to provide those.
Okay. Those are the maintenance charge for building. Could we get a breakdown of your estimates for, I believe, 24,000, just kind of rough guesstimates, and not now, but maybe, because that was increased last year by 10,000 for locking mechanisms, light shutoffs.
Was that last year or the year prior?
I thought it was 12s. Oh, it may have been in 12.
I think it was 412.
Correct.
Yeah, so.
And then it stayed the same.
I'll check on that.
If I could just get a rough breakdown of what you're anticipating for that 24,724. And then the last, because I just have some questions on the Bartel.
No, go ahead.
Study, just for my own. Chief, for your calls for service, what constitutes an administration call for service? Under crimes against property, you have administration.
Administration could be a request for a pistol permit background. There's a wide variety of those. A traffic survey for highway safety. Fingerprinting. It could be a variety of them. It's more where it's going to be handled in-house, so to speak, where it's going to be taken in by it's going to be taken in by administration, reviewed, and then determined as to whether or not an investigation has to take place. Whereas you call in a burglary, we're going to go and investigate it. A traffic survey, we look at and go, okay, this is what we need.
From administration, then assigned to?
For the most part, and that's a general speak. There are other things that it may or may not be. A pistol permit would be a perfect example. We're going to do a background investigation regardless, but it comes in as an administrative call.
And then operations?
Operations could be Operation Safe Commute, selective enforcement, directed patrols. So if we have reports of speeding on Merrill Road during school hours, operations, it will be assigned as an operations card to go out in that area and conduct a patrol specific to the speeders in that area. If we have burglaries in one specific area, we may target that area, and that would be a patrol function.
Okay. So, and I'm just trying to clarify in my mind in looking at kind of some background information. Call for service traditionally is defined as a call coming in from residents requiring service.
That's not correct.
So that's not how we
That is not
defined it.
correct. A call for service is anything that generates police activity. And when I say a pistol permit, I say, look, we know the speeders are on Merrill Road. We don't need people to call and tell us that. We know they're there the first couple days of school. We assign an officer there to do enforcement education. We may not get a call from a citizen, but we'll address it on our own. That's a call for service.
Okay.
So it's not just what the people are calling in, but it's also what we do for the calls of service. If we stop a vehicle for speeding, again, we issue paperwork, warning, summons, arrest. We generated that, but it's still one call for service.
Would it be possible to get do you, with your CAD system, and I don't know, I know you're switching over, can you break down your calls for service by time of day, day of week?
Absolutely.
Could we get something like that to see the distribution? And then...
And when do you want that for?
We've got more presentations.
No, I'm talking, do you want it for a year, a month?
Why don't we use 2012, since that's, I think, the year that you use for the Bartell study. And would it be possible to get the calls for service? Because for the study, you've got 13,184 calls for service, and I think that's because it removes some of the traffic stuff.
Probably is.
Would it be possible to kind of get that breakdown that was used for the study? And then what is the difference between an index offense and a what would be an example of an index?
Index is crime against person or felony level offenses. But let me back up when I say that. Fight by mutual consent. You push me, I push you. Not really an index offense. It's more of a violation. It's not the level, felony level. It hasn't risen to that level. If I punch you and you do nothing back, that's an index offense.
And would that then fall into the non-index offense?
The fight by mutual consent would, yes.
So index offense are those higher level felony type things, and non-index would be everything.
And I'm hesitant to say they're against persons because burglaries, robberies can also be index.
Index if it rises above.
And matter of fact, they don't have to rise; they just are by the nature of them.
Okay. And then would you be able? Could you provide us? You may not want to just say it now. How many shifts we have? How many officers on the patrols? In other words, what do we have on a? And like I said, if you want to just email that to me, that's fine.
I'd like to discuss it. We're working 12-hour shifts, 2 days on, 2 days off. Either you work Monday, Tuesday. Can I write this? Probably.
Sure. Make sure it's not a permanent marker.
We're all good with that, though. So we do what we call team policing, so 2 days on, 2 days off. So this week, you have one team working Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sunday is always an 8-hour day.
And the team is comprised of?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't.
Understood.
Wednesday, Thursday is a 2-hour, or the other shift that same week. So this is 1 week. The other team comes and works in this one. Okay, so far?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The following week, this team now works the 5 days, and this team works 2 days.
And that's in order to average out to your average
I
work
believe
week?
it's 54,
Is it 40-hour work week?
40-hour work week.
40 total, and then 80 combined.
But some weeks are higher,
Over
some
2
weeks are...
Correct. So that's what we have. Currently, I believe I have, well, we just lost someone, so I believe I have 4 and 3 on one team. So on each shift, 4 and 3. And then the other team, I believe I have 3 and 3. 4 and 3. I'd have to look.
So do the numbers of officers on duty change throughout the day? Or is it a fairly, not as taking into account, vacancies, but...
Well, here's the problem. If I have training, which I'm mandated by state to train, if I have court, if I have vacation days, if I have sick days, I am very often running, sometimes 2 officers a shift. And that's my concern, is much more often than I would like. I'm running 2 officers a shift.
And that's 2 patrol officers with
With a sergeant.
With your
So
sergeant.
2 officers plus a sergeant, yes.
And now, normally, taking away
With
those
that-
vacancies, what is your normal complement?
When we had 30 people, and it's probably easy to work with those numbers. When we had 30 people, we were running 4 people on a shift. And that would account for, we could do 3 and 3 if we had training, if we had days off, sick days, vacation times, or whatever. So we were down to 3 to 3 now. We just backed down to 2 per shift for monetary reasons.
And where are you now from 30?
Right now, I am at 28.
29 not funded,
29 funded,
currently funded.
but I'm currently at 28 people.
Correct, but you have, right, so you're at 29. I'm just trying to figure, if when you had 30, you had 4 per shift.
Right. That's without time
You're filling a vacancy, so you're going to have 29. How does adding 1 person how does losing 1 person bring you down to 2 per shift?
Because if I have days off in addition to losing that person, I've now dropped the second guy off that shift. If I have a guy at training in court all day, that's another fill I have to do. So I've got a variety of issues that I'm trying to fill. Training, we do training once a month, in addition to stuff that goes on outside. So again, with days off and sick days and everything else.
So you don't fill for days off overtime?
I won't say we don't. We look at the shift, we look at the day of the week, and we look at the personnel on hand before we fill a shift.
Would it be possible to see, maybe for 2012, 6 months or whatever, just a representative, how many people were on shift, were actually working patrol? Just to get a handle on those extreme fluctuations.
It's a computer program, we should be able to pull up 2012. I'm not promising.
Understood.
It's an online-based computer program. We should be able to go back, certainly.
Yeah, 2012, some portion of that is
Okay.
fine. Nothing beyond that. That's all the questions I have. Thank you, Chief.
Are there other questions for Chief Sully, Mark? Alan?
He had what I was looking for anyway, so.
You didn't see it?
He had it when I was looking for it. I was all set, thanks.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you, Chief.
All set, everybody.
Yep. Okay.
That's online, no. Sorry, I didn't have the extra copy. You can, yes. On the homepage, it's right at the top says 2014 budget. Click here, and then it takes you to different links.
Is there gonna be another public comment tonight or?
I don't see anybody else from the any new public here.
Don't we do it at 8:30?
Well, we usually have one.
I had one after the fire chief's presentation, and I thought that would be at 9 o'clock. Chief, you gonna be done by 9?
Yeah.
Susie sends
me home, I'm outta
I just want, can I just
I'm
ask
sorry.
a question while he's done?
Yeah.
That's up to the chairman.
Yeah, quickly.
Just, well, that way I won't say tonight. Has the fire department ever tried to team up with the police department? Like, is the fire department,
Take a
would do maybe the dog calls and maybe the traffic calls? That would help. Volunteering help. Because they get like 5 or 6 calls maybe a day, and there's not 5 or 6 fires a day, you know? But it would be a suggestion, you know? They could do something easy like that. It would help the police department, which they sound like they're busier than the fire department.
I remember a day in this town's history where a public safety department was discussed, and it did not go anywhere.
everybody wants their department, but it's a suggestion, you know, the easy calls, like traffic calls and dog calls.
Chief, are you doing oh, yes, you are.
Look at Collis.
That bright light is,
It's not lack of sleep?
yes. That is not
It's not what you thought it was.
the good Lord coming.
Yeah.
How many firefighters do we have?
We're gonna find out.
Stealing my thunder, I'm telling you.
Got a barbecue rib in there?
Is that the same?
This is a corrected copy.
Okay.
Corrected copy. Sorry, folks.
He's even got the whole house for us and ready to go.
So we can replace the other one
Yes,
in
please.
its entirety, okay?
Just get it all stapled in there.
Corrected, updated copy, Nick.
Oh, it's a different one?
Yep,
Discard the old one.
discard the old one.
I wrote all my notes on the old one.
Yeah, they'll recycle.
Are those extras on those?
You can. I'm gonna go back and get it now.
All right, I think the clicking and snapping is, well, almost done.
I'll be quiet.
You?
Come in with the soup.
I didn't get,
Oh,
thank you.
Should be enough there for selectmen to be.
Yep, yep, yeah, one for, leave one here for Phil. For you, one for Sue.
How much have I got here? I got plenty of these. I got plenty of these.
Is this new and revised?
New and revised.
Oh,
I
no.
apologize, I had to make some
No, no.
corrections.
Okay.
I want to make sure your numbers
So you
jive
just
with
two.
my numbers.
Hey, one more piece
Okay.
coming, here you go, one more.
Are these two extra ones here?
There's extra for selectmen to advance.
No,
Oh, okay.
no, I'm looking them up over here.
You're hooking up
Yeah,
Selectman
I'm
Vancer?
looking, I've got them
Okay.
all set up here.
Here, does he have this one?
No, but he does now.
Do you have one of those?
I do. I already put it in my book through the one out.
Wow, you're good.
You like this too, or you all set? Phil's gonna get a pile of good stuff.
Should I punch all his for him? Okay, I'm gonna date all the, oh, they're all dated. Are they all
Yes,
dated, Chief?
the new version is a date, so you can.
Okay.
How many do you want? Here you go. Can't have the rest of those. I got one.
All righty, we good to go?
Well, look, ready, I'm ready. We're an hour ago.
Extras? That's an extra.
It's all yours, Chief.
Are you just wandering around? Okay.
No, you don't wanna be near me.
That's all right.
I'm holding up, though.
Folks, please get on with the tires.
Mr. Chair, can we dim the lights? Thank you.
I knew I could do that.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief.
Thank you for your time. Tonight, what I'm going to do is give a quick fire department overview. Most of you probably are aware of our services and what we have for resources, but also it's a good refreshment for the folks watching online here or watching VTV. And we'll go over both the fire department budget and the EMS budget. This year, there's some considerable requests on the capital side that will probably take a lot of discussion, but I'll get through the two operating budgets and go from there. The first slide on page 2 or slide number 2, it just gives you an overview of the equipment that we run from. We run from 3 stations with the following equipment. We have 4 engines, 1 tower ladder truck, 1 forestry unit, with 1 squad unit. You'll see that truck later. 3 ambulances, some 4x4 pickups, 4x4 SUVs, 2 rescue boats, and what we call a spill response unit. It's a utility trailer. Our goal is, obviously, has been over the years since I've been here, to review the apparatus that we currently use, its function, and its purpose for our community. And one of the things that we've done in the past is actually reduce the amount of vehicles and apparatus that we have on this list. And as I talk further, you'll notice that I have a plan for another one. Some facts about the fire department and EMS. The Goffstown Fire Department is actually what we call a combination department. I know there's sometimes there's been some terminology posed here and there where the term volunteer has been used. And without a doubt, majority of the fire departments within the state of New Hampshire are volunteer, and we're probably classified as one of them because we do use on-call firefighters, even though they are compensated for their time when they respond and come in for training. They are still designated as volunteers by the sense of the term by the National Fire Academy and by FEMA. So we utilize full-time, part-time, and on-call personnel to service the community. There's actually 2 shifts of 6 firefighter, EMT, paramedics that work 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. we staff 1 ambulance with part-time EMT paramedics. And since 2007, the fire department has been awarded over $1.35 million worth of Homeland Security and Emergency Management grant funds. And just take a moment to say that without those grants, I would be presenting more requests and heftier requests for capital items and other projects that these grants allowed us to get. Without them, I'd say this department would be in tough shape. The EMS budget is funded solely from the EMS Special Revenue Fund. This fund was established a number of years ago before I became chief here. And what that means is that all the revenue that the ambulance generates through transports, like for example, if I was transported by the ambulance service, it would bill my insurance company, or they would bill me, and I would pay for the ambulance trip to the hospital. And that money goes into this EMS Special Revenue Fund. And that fund is actually what funds you'll see the EMS budget coming up. It pays for the operations of the ambulances. When we need to purchase a new ambulance, it comes from that fund. And it pays for training and personnel costs. And you'll see that when we present that EMS budget. The fire department issued and conducted nearly 2,300 permits and life safety inspections in 2012. Just give you a snapshot in time of our business and activity beyond just calls. So we're just not responding to fires anymore. We're just not responding to ambulance calls. We respond to life safety inspections, fire permits, seasonal permits, occupancy permits, and just general safety permits. For example, we do inspections in the schools, daycare providers, home health care providers. We're out there pretty much 5 days a week performing these inspections, and now we're expanding that to almost 7 days a week now that we've trained our on-duty staff to perform some of these inspections. And the fire department has attained in this past year New Hampshire Heart Safe status. What that really means is the fact that the fire department has stepped up and increased its number of EMT and we call AED or automated external defibrillator training to both, say, school and town employees, and also the general public, coaches from the schools. So we've pretty much saturated the area where something bad could happen. For example, if somebody was playing football and they had sudden cardiac arrest, we know that the staff has been trained, and there's probably an AED defibrillator nearby where they could render care before the ambulance arrives, and that increases the survivability rate. And right now, between advancements in equipment, training on the ambulance that we respond with, and with the public awareness of early CPR, our we call resuscitated rate is increased about 25%. And about 10 years ago, it was probably 2%. So this is something that we're really proud of, and we're glad to be a New Hampshire heart-safe community. Slide number 4 gives us a snapshot. Sorry, trying to catch up here. Slide number 4 gives us a snapshot of what we have for personnel right now with the Goffstown Fire Department. And so you'll see the breakdown of full-time personnel. You have the fire chief, deputy chief. We have an executive secretary, training captain, a fire prevention officer. Again, it does the majority of the inspections. We have line lieutenants that coordinate shift activities with the firefighters and EMTs. The call personnel and the call and part-time EMS are your folks that get called in to fill vacant shifts, or they're just coming in to respond to calls. And that number fluctuates quite a bit because we understand that people have their own lives and job requirements that are full-time, and we realize that they may be able to commit one moment with the Goffstown Fire Department, and then the next they can't. So, right, for example, we have 20 firefighter EMTs, 12 firefighters that are not EMTs, and we have EMTs that are just on the department that are called. Then we've got the part-time EMS folks that work solely just the nighttime shifts. Okay. Now, just for example, that flexibility, right now we're processing probably 4 additional applications for the part-time EMS because we just put out an ad, so we have 4 applications that we're reviewing, and we're reviewing 4 applications for call firefighter. So again, it's a revolving door. Right now we have a total of 69. Just to give an idea where we are compared to last year or 2012, we had 70. So we're maintaining that level for a few years now, and that's a good thing because our call volume again is not going down. Just like the police, our call volume seems to be creeping up on us. For example, right now in 2012, our emergency call volume was 2,297 calls. And that does include fire, EMS, hazard-related calls, and also we call those false alarm calls. We get out there and realize, the alarm went off, but there's no fire. So this is the overall trending of our call volume has been growing. And just the bottom graph shows you the number of full-time staff we have, and it's been relatively consistent since 2008, even though our call volume has been growing. I may bring this graph up later just to show you our call volume in retrospect to our fire stations and how our operations have evolved over a number of years, and the fact that our fire stations really haven't been improved upon, and we'll discuss that when we talk about the capital items. If there's any questions, just please chime in. The next one is I wanted to give just a 9-year progression of the budget, so you have an idea of what the budget looks like over the years. There hasn't been any significant spikes. For example, in 2011, there was a spike in the EMS budget, but that was because we purchased an ambulance. And you'll probably see that again this year's presentation because we're requesting another ambulance. On the fire end, there was a slight increase in 2009, 10, and 11 because we received what we call a SAFER grant, which was a staffing grant for firefighters. We received a federal grant for 2 additional full-time firefighters, and which was a 5-year performance period where it gradually weaned the costs off of the feds and onto the town, and that's why you see that gradual increase. Okay, let's get down to the numbers now for fire and EMS budget. So the first, we wanted to show you just a summary. When we looked at the fire budget, you see the progression from 2012, 13, and then request for 14. And there is actually a 1.5% increase over last year of tune of $37,877, and we'll give you that breakdown in a little bit. On the EMS side, again, it's a larger jump. It's a $28,000 increase, which equates to $158,247. little footnote to that, though, is there's a $158,000 request for a new ambulance. So in reality, you're looking at about a 2% increase on operations on the EMS budget. Let's go to the fire summary. As we go over the summary for cost changes, I'm going to highlight a few areas. You'll see some highlighted areas, and I'm trying to make sense of the shifts in some of the line items because of the shift over to the new finance software, and we're trying to equate things so you don't think that we're just ditching one line and it zeroing out, and all of a sudden we've got this huge increase on another line. So we'll try to match that up, and that's the reason why you have a new copy today, because I just wanted to make sure that was clear, especially when the name of the lines actually changed. So, for example, line 41-100 is regular wages full-time, and that was previously regular wages for just general employees. What changed in this particular line is the fact that it also included the non-fire related salaries, which is the secretary salary. So that's in there, and that line was, you see non-firefighter wages down below has been zeroed out. That's why that's zeroed out, and it's now been rolled into that 41-100. Another thing too is the portion of Dave Roberge, who is the maintenance supervisor for the town. A portion of his salary was allocated out of the fire department budget, and that has been removed from the fire department budget and allocated onto the town hall, because he actually doesn't do much work at the fire department versus other departments within the town. Our firefighters do a lot of the maintenance, or we coordinate actually 100% of the maintenance that's needed at the fire stations. So now we have this line called regular wages part-time, and that used to be broken down by call duty and call incidents and call training, and now it's one line. So that's why you see a giant, not a giant, but a large increase, a 34% increase or change in that particular line. But you'll also notice that the line below has been zeroed out. So a couple of things happened. Actually, the line's actually equated downward overall, because what we do every year is we have an idea of how many calls that we anticipate, how many hours that we need to pay our call force for duties and training and incidents and callback. And because we've taken on fresh faces all the time, and we have the new part-time call firefighter pay matrix, the average hourly rate for our personnel is actually decreased. The hours have gone up slightly, but the average hour has gone down. So there's that adjustment right there. And you'll see that as we muddle down through FICA, Medicare, and so on.
So your regular wage line, Chief, of full-time, that 41-100, now has all your full-time employees in there, union and non-union, correct?
Correct. And now we have, again, this is you're seeing the Munis software kind of going in effect here. All of our part-time wages have been lump sum into 41-170. It makes it very convenient to try to track also.
And your union is in negotiations now, so there is no increases reflected here for union members.
No increases, correct. The overtime line has again been adjusted downwards very slightly, $250. Only this is because the average overtime rate has been adjusted because of new faces that we have on the rolls. The FICA and Medicare are all adjusted downward because of that. Retirement for employee, this is the non-fire employee. Again, that was adjusted because, again, Dave Roberge's salary has been transferred to town hall's budget. Retirement fire, that's been increased due to the state mandate. Unemployment was adjusted, workers' comp has been adjusted, and the benefit line has been adjusted to reflect the current employee demographic.
So that there's no rate increases in your benefit line, just selection changes?
Just selection changes, correct. Next slide is the operational costs. So, for example, the bottom of the previous slide, you saw a total fire personnel cost increase of $3,437. So now let's look at the operational cost changes, and we're just concentrating again on some of the lines that had significant changes. If there's a line in there, may be a line in there that I did not include. It's only because there was no change to it, or nothing remarkable for me to make a mention of. The increase for professional dues, 22%, reflects a addition of a service we call I Am Responding, and it's a software-based subscription that we're able to tie into the new CAD software that police will be using with us, and we'll be able to track our responders if they can respond or not. A lot of times, for example, we will be toning out additional personnel because we just don't know if we're going to get personnel coming back in. With this system, we'll be able to see firsthand if we get responders coming back in which station they're responding to. So I think we'll be able to coordinate staffing a little bit better and be a little more efficient. The cost for physical exams and Hep B protection. Here's the highlight. Again, when you see the highlights, this is what I call it the Munis effect. I know they probably don't want me to use that term, but this is the Munis effect where we're we're taking one line away and allocating it someplace else in the budget. So, for example, Hep B protection has been discontinued under the system and has been lumped into the physical examinations line. And you look at the addition to it, the increase, and you go, well, that doesn't add up. Well, the prices for our physicals that we currently subscribe to and send personnel to, they have upped the rates, and that reflects this rate increase. Training expenses, the increase that we see there reflects the cost of, we're going to be hosting a firefighter level 2 program within Goffstown at some point next year, and we have a number of newer firefighters that have been now certified to firefighter 1, and we just want to get to that next level, and we feel that we can host a class in pretty much of all Goffstown firefighters. So that reflects that additional cost in training. Office supplies is another highlighted one, and next to equipment rental, what we did is we extracted out the copier costs and taken that and put it to the equipment rental. So what you see there for the 2337 is the cost for the copier rental, and it's more or less been extracted out of the office supply line. Operating supplies, there's a 62% increase there, pretty much the most significant jump in the budget, and that it's a project that's been on our radar for some time. Is we call it rescue airbag system, and the rescue airbag system is used to lift heavy objects during a rescue or support heavy objects in a rescue. It's one of those things that, thank goodness, we don't use it a lot. But when we do need it, it's needed in an instant. For example, we had a motorcyclist run into a car and he got jammed under the car, and it took this airbag system to lift that car off of him. He was severely injured, but he survived the incident. These airbags are 15 years old plus, and we need to start replacing them with newer airbags. They're like a rubber Kevlar composite. They're tested and they're rated for rescue systems, and unfortunately they're expensive. And that's the reason why you see the jump on this particular line.
So what's the cost of one of those, Chief?
I can give you some backup on this one.
Depends on size.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's thousands.
Vary on size.
Exactly, and that's and again you're buying a rescue equipment that's geared for the use. Severe use. You got glass, you got sharp edges everywhere, and you have to be able to deploy them very quickly, and they're rated for a certain weights and uses.
I'll ask the question.
Let's see, postage went down. We're reducing the postage rate. We're seeing that the effects of using the meter upstairs helps out immensely, so we're adjusting that postage down. SCBA equipment and repair, we adjusted that one up slightly 6%, only because the age of our SCBAs, or the air packs they wear on their back, firefighters wear on their back. They're aging, and now we're seeing some electronic failures going on, and we're sending them out for repair on a common basis. And this is something that we're going to see as a replacement item probably in 2015. In fact, we're probably going to be, I'll be sitting in front of you in the coming months, hopefully, to try to get a federal grant to get those replaced. These air packs were purchased under a grant back in 2002, I believe, 2002, and we're getting the end of the lifespan of these units. Heating oil, propane have all gone down because of the rates that were established. Water, the water rates were increased. We had a couple things happen. We had a 2.5% rate increase from Manchester Waterworks. And we also now pay for the connections for the fire sprinkler systems at Station 18 and Station 19, the one in Church Street and the one in Pinardville. So that reflects the additional cost there. The cell phones, again, here's another finance software shift where we had cell phones under telecommunications in previous budgets, and now they've been separated out. The rate that you see there reflects five cell phone and 5 wireless cards. So now telecommunications is on its own, and it's only $650. What that is the backup 911 line for the fire department, which rings into the Church Street Fire Station. So if dispatch ever went down because of water disaster, we'd be able to pick up operations seamlessly at the fire station.
So is that an analog line, Chief?
It is. Well, they've converted to the digital line, but Comcast doesn't want to touch it. I don't know if
okay.
Yeah, so that's
The
the reason.
rest of your landlines are through Comcast,
Right.
and they're in IT budget.
Because it rings simultaneously at the station and at dispatch at the police station, Comcast didn't have the mechanism, or there was no Comcast lines at PD, so they couldn't make it happen. So we're maintaining the old line there.
Thank you.
Diesel fuel and gasoline are reflected to the contracted rates. The Opticom and the small equipment maintenance, again, has been blended together. The Opticom maintenance is the traffic preemption devices at all the intersections with the red, green lights. And what that does is it allows our fire apparatus to proceed through. Actually, the police use it also, but we maintain the system. Most recently, we had to replace one of the controller cards at the Hannaford intersection, and we realized it was actually the first time it's been serviced is since they installed it, I guess about 20 years ago. So we got its use out of that one. The tire line, we decreased slightly. We feel that we'd be able to purchase the tires that we need this year, and we're looking at replacing probably a set of front-end tires for engine 6 next year. We also budget in for damage and damage replacement. Let's look at the body repairs line. We increased the body repairs line for one major reason, is engine 1. Engine 1 is on our list for replacement, and we'll talk about that in a moment when we talk about the capital line. But I also wanted to include it into the budget. Engine 1 went to we'll call it Dunham Spring in Londonderry about 2 years ago because we had frame failure, and we put I wouldn't say it's a Band-Aid fix, but they installed a bracket system on there to support the frame the best they could and keep the truck on the road. The support frame is not typical of what they try to do on a vehicle like that, but it seemed to be working for now. But they said, they said that when they installed it, said 2 years, get rid of the truck. But if we can't get that truck replaced, we need to do something to make sure that framework is supported even further. We'd have to take it down to a place like a Dunham frame and make sure that the work they did before is supported even further to get us by another year. Okay, so that's the reason why we added in another, I would say probably, I estimated another $5,000. I was going to reduce this line this year, but with the cost of that bracketing and support of that frame, I was going to make sure we had $5,000 available for that particular project. If we get engine 1 replaced, we can reduce that line. Property insurance increased because our property insurance rates went up. On the fire department budget, we maintain one deduction, one $1,000 deduction. That's in that line. We maintain 2 in the ambulance for $2,000. You'll see that in the ambulance budget when you take a look at that.
Just a point of order on property insurance. This doesn't reflect increased rates. What it reflects is that in 2013, we knew we were getting contribution holiday, so we under-budgeted in 2013. There's no contribution holiday next year. So this reflects 2013 rates with the deductible the chief talked about. But there's no contribution holiday next year. We won't have the rates for insurance until October. So any insurance lines that you see in any of these department budgets will be adjusted when the rates are set in October.
So these increases are just to bring us to where we should have been
right.
Without the holidays. Okay.
Maintenance charges, buildings. We reduced that by $1,000. Again, I think we're getting more efficient of what we do. We're handling a lot of this stuff in-house, so we selected to reduce that line just slightly. Station repairs, on the other hand, we increased. Again, this is something that we're going to talk about when we talk about the fire station improvement program. There's one thing that needs to be addressed immediately is the water quality at Station 17. There's arsenic and other problems with the water up there, and the increase here reflects that cost. Again, if the fire station improvement program were to come to fruition, we wouldn't be utilizing those funds so much out of the operating budget.
Excuse me, Chief. When you say address that, is that filters, new well? When you say address that, what is it?
The well. This is nothing to do with the well. This is basically applying filters and water treating system just to one point in the building. For example, if you wanted to drink the water, we're going to select the sink the sink in the kitchen to be your spot to get arsenic-free or arsenic-treated systems. So it's expensive to do it that way, but we feel that we can't go any further. We need to do something with that particular problem that we're faced with.
Chief, what kind of well do you have up there at that station? Is it a artesian or a dug?
I believe
it's an artesian well.
Artesian well, yeah. It's off to the corner. If you're familiar with the site, if you're looking straight at the fire station, there's a small building owned by the telephone company. Mm-hmm. Behind that building, you'll see that there's a well right at the corner of the parking lot.
Okay.
That's where the well is.
So it's just the drinking water is contaminated, or more or less?
Yeah, yep. That's the only water source we have right out there right now.
Put a bubbler in.
Well, we do supply water, drinking water in bottles,
right.
But the water system has other problems. It smells like rotten eggs. It's particular issues. It's got radon. So if anybody's going to be there for a period of time, we want to make sure that they're not exposed to too much radon. And it's not unusual. I mean, I've got radon in my residence. We treat it, and
Not unusual in Goffstown
yeah,
at all.
we call it the Granite State
Granite State, yep.
yeah.
It's Granite State for a reason.
Exactly. But this also gets us probably started on the radon system. I don't believe it gets us a radon system.
No,
But
not
if
for that price.
no, not for this price. That's included in the fire station improvement program. Slide number 10. So you see under the fire operation costs that you saw you increased about $34,000. Now we're talking about the EMS budget. It's all on one page here. The wages part-time, again, is now one line. So we lumped in several lines into one line now, the 41,150. So that's why you see an adjustment or such a severe increase on that particular line. But it also includes the duty wages that we had in the previous budgets. So again, now it is now $179,350. Again, adjusting the hourly rate down again to that new rate that we're using. New for the EMS budget is a special duty wage. The ambulance now does a number of special events and details. With a third ambulance, we do standby coverages at the campus and other large events, and they pay at detail rate. Before, there was always a mix with we get pay somebody with detail rate out of the fire budget, but they're actually doing EMS duty. With the Munis software, we're able to actually allocate it properly. So we'll be able to take it in and allocate the revenue would be matching.
So Chief, I see you have a retirement line here. Is that on that 3,000?
Yes.
So are you assuming that all 3,000 would be for full-timers?
No. Where we're seeing.
Calculation does.
Yeah, well, yes and no. When we do a special duty, say at the campus for a football game, we may or may not have a full-time employee take that detail. So you may not need to pay retirement costs out of that detail rate.
I understand that. My question is the $823 that you have in retirement,
Yes.
is that the 27% of the
Yes.
13,000?
Yes.
I mean, of the 3,000?
Assuming that
Worst case scenario.
worst case scenario.
Okay.
Right. Let's start about that. You'll see adjustments on the different personnel lines. Again, physical exams increased because of the rates at the doctor's office, and Hep B has been lumped into physical exams now. Postage has been decreased again. Computer software, we break that out separately. You'll see typically a lot of your actually all your computer software townwide is lumped into admin, but we allocate certain computer software just for EMS, and because it's a special revenue account, we allocate that separately. And you see that adjusted there. Again, cell phone line was created. So we maintain three cell phones and 3 wireless cards for the ambulances. Your property insurance, again, is adjusted appropriately. Operating supplies, we adjusted 6% up, but on $1,000 because the cost of expendable supplies for patients has been going up regularly, and we're not getting as many supplies back from the hospital when we drop off a patient, so we wind up paying for it. Training expenses increased 34% because we have one employee that wishes to start his paramedic program next year, and this is a portion of that. The paramedic program actually is now probably in the range of $12,000 to $15,000, and this is to help defray some of that cost. We'll be having the employee work with us on a training agreement or a tuition agreement. So obviously, if the employee left in the middle of the program, we would get some of that money back. Diesel fuel was adjusted because of the rate. Fleet maintenance, we adjusted upward 17% because we've got all of our vehicles are now no longer covered under warranty, and we're paying for all the wear and tear on that vehicle right now. Equipment line was paced down a little bit. Again, last year we purchased a new cardiac monitor defibrillator at the tune of about $35,000. So that was the lion's share of that equipment line. But this year we're budgeting for 3 electrically powered patient stretchers. We're hoping that this will help reduce the amount of back stress on a lot of our folks that run on the ambulance, and that each stretcher costs about $11,000 to $12,000. So that's in that budget. Overpayments, we increased slightly only because what this pays for is the fact that sometimes we get patients that receive a bill and they have insurance also, but they feel like they're obligated to pay the bill even though their insurance company is already paying, and they pay the bill twice. The insurance company pays, and then they pay, and then we have to reimburse that person for the actual cost that they've overpaid. So, but that's got to come out of the budget. So that, even though we get the money in, we want to make sure that we allocate that money out, and that's an appropriation here in the budget. And then lastly, we have an ambulance purchase of $150,000. There's a couple of things that we're looking at for this particular project. It's to replace the 2005 ambulance. It's got about 74,000 miles on it. The patient compartment is actually in pretty good shape, but unfortunately the chassis is pretty tired, and it's really starting to cost us a lot in regards to the maintenance of it. We're constantly replacing a turbo every year, fuel injectors every year, and the downtime is pretty significant. Another thing we're seeing with that's a 4D series chassis, so the front end it wasn't really rated for the amount of abuse and the weight that's put on that front end. So we're constantly tasked to do some front end maintenance on that and repair. So with what I've been doing is looking into the fact that if we can remount that ambulance, the patient box, the patient compartment area, onto a new chassis versus purchasing new. And so I've looked at several companies, and right now it looks like the cost of remount would be about $130,000. All the remount companies also throw in the caveat going, well, if we get into a situation where structurally we have to repair something on that patient compartment area, it may cost more. So, maybe look into possibly up to 10% more depending on what we get into. And I'm finding that across the board with a lot of vendors is to anticipate maybe a little bit more. For example, if they look at the floor cross members are rotted out, they need to replace them, that's extra cost. Versus also looking into, we've had some good success in the past purchasing stock or demo units. They're typical units that the regional sales areas get to show customers, but they want to sell them, and they sell them at a discounted rate. So in fact, our last ambulance was a demo unit or stock unit that we were able to get a pretty good price break on, and so we're trying to look at, when the time comes, we're going to be coming back to you and determining whether remount is the best option versus purchasing something that may be available to us immediately.
A quick question, is that $150,000, is that for the ambulance total, or is that for just, you're looking at a brand new ambulance altogether, is that the $150,000?
Well, with the $150,000, for example, if the stock unit with a trade-in, if we took the old one and traded it in, we could probably get a stock brand new unit for $150,000.
And if you take and go buy a chassis, what are we talking about for chassis?
If we buy the chassis and have them do the remount work,
Yeah.
it's base is about $130,000.
What kind of chassis are we buying for? I mean, how much money are we spending on a chassis?
The chassis would be a GM G series van style chassis.
Yeah, but how much? Yeah.
And it would be diesel.
Yeah, I got that.
And that would be placed on, the patient module will be placed on that chassis.
Right, but what's the chassis cost? What are we looking at chassis? You're not looking at
The chassis, the latest chassis cost is about $50,000.
And they're going to charge us how much to swap it over? No, there's something wrong with that picture. You got to go shopping better. Bring it to my shop. I'll change it out for you, cross members and all.
Well, it's
cheap money. That's a lot.
Without a doubt, it's expensive. And right now, I probably have a half a dozen vendors right now, and they're all coming in the same price. The only differences I'm seeing right now with the vendors is the downtime, is the build time on the ambulance. They range from everywhere from 90 days to 6 months, and to me that's a value, because that ambulance right now, that third ambulance does about 10 transports a month, and that's revenue to support the system. So the longer that unit is out, it's costing us money. The other thing too is warranties. With some of the companies that do the remounting, the warranty could be a year, or it could be a blend of warranties where it'd be a year on, say, workmanship. You have your regular manufacturer of the chassis warranty, and say the paint could be 5 years, and electrical could be 7 years. And that's where we're seeing the wide differences. Versus if you just purchase a new unit, a lot of them just warranty the whole unit for, say, 5, 6, 7 years, bumper to bumper. So that's the value you're getting for the extra $20,000. And by purchasing the stock unit or a new unit, you're not having a downtime, so you're not losing any potential revenue because of the calls lost. And again, that's something that we'll examine further after the first of the year.
Just a quick question. You're talking about 10 transports a month.
Mm-hmm.
How much revenue can you acquire from 10 transports a month? Ambulance to run for the month.
Well, it's a third ambulance.
Right, no, I understand, but you're gonna have somebody driving it, somebody operating it, you gotta put fuel
Oh,
on it.
absolutely, absolutely.
So
You have
two people are gonna cost you quite a bit of money, and I don't, if you can do it for $10,000, that's, I'm just trying to balance the number, you know, you got $10,000, all you gotta pick up for revenue, and you got two people running it, plus you got the maintenance and take care of the machine.
Right, and that's the reason why we adjusted our rates earlier this year to try to match up our operational costs and our future capital costs with our rates. So, for example, that's the reason why we're currently Medicare plus 35%, and whenever that truck does a detail, where say if it's at the campus standing by, we charge the campus $75 an hour just to have it sit there, and then if we have to transport, we bill the patient. So we realize that the cost of that truck, we have to somehow recoup that cost somewhere over the course of that life of that truck. And I think our rates are pretty standard with that.
Questions on
Yes,
Chief, do you track in other words, can you go back, because it hasn't been that long ago when we decided to keep that truck versus trading it in as a backup. Can you track how many calls it's had?
Yes, absolutely.
And with the revenue?
The revenue from that particular call, I may not be able to track, but I could tell you how many transports we do, and you could say, on average, we're getting $750 out of a $1,000 transport, because we may have payers that don't pay, or payers that are just Medicare. So, for example, we may bill out over $1,000, but we're actually getting less overall. So if I tell you we're doing 10 transports a month for that truck, does that mean we're getting $10,000? Maybe, maybe not. Realistically, I would say, $750 per transport to be conservative. So versus if we didn't have that truck, we would lose that revenue. For example, whenever we have one of our two primary trucks go down for maintenance, for whatever reason, we lose that truck. And if we didn't have that third truck as a backup, we would be calling for mutual aid, and we lose those transporting revenues.
Right, and I guess that's where I was going. When you bought the last vehicle, I was on the board, and we decided to hold on to that truck, but I don't think at least in my mind at the time, was that within a couple of years, we were going to buy a new one and replace it. Have you considered just running it until, you've got two 2006s, I think. When's the next truck going to be, the next ambulance for $200,000 going to be, estimate, going to be replaced? Sure. Because this is a backup.
It's a backup, but it's similar to everything that, similar to other programs where it's a backup, but for example, if we remount this unit or purchase new, this would now be a frontline unit to give more life to the other ones. You know what I mean? So for example, if we remount this unit, doesn't mean that it's going to be, the term backup or reserve unit. We'd be running this unit because it's brand new, and then hopefully extending out the life of the other trucks. Let me just give you an example. For ambulance, the next one on the line for...
Well, they're both 2009s, right?
They are. In ambulance 2 in 2017, I expect that we'll need to do either a remount or purchase. So 2017. So if we push this out, again, it's a case where, if we don't push it out, we may not be extending that to 2017 for ambulance 2. We may have to do it sooner. You see what I'm saying?
Right, but I'm just looking at, you know, whether it's worth, what's a round trip per call?
Our average transport is about 6 miles.
One way or both ways?
One way.
So you figure, so that's,
So you're going to the scene,
so 12,
the patient, and then returning.
say about 120, say 200 miles a month for 10 calls. You know, so you're looking at 1,400 miles. You're, you know, so 2017, 2018 can, with 72,000 miles, can you run that truck until you have to replace one of these other ones? Get rid of that. You're going to replace one of these vehicles and take that and put it. So,
Right.
so you've gotten 3 truck replacements out, and you're only replacing 2 trucks.
Right.
Whichever
I
one
can
you
see what you're saying, but
replace is-
again, like that variable where if we don't rotate the vehicles through, you may cause that ambulance 2 to be bumped closer for service or replacement to 2016, or, you know what I mean? Because it's being loaded up with miles and.
I understand that, but I remember when we purchased these are heavier duty trucks.
This one for this price, it's not going to be on. It's not the medium duty. It'll be the regular G series.
No, I'm talking ambulance 1 and 2.
Yes.
I remember when we purchased those, the reason we purchased those as such a heavy duty vehicle was to take into account the roads and to give us this life.
Right.
We didn't think we were keeping a third ambulance at the time. We were trading that ambulance in.
Mm-hmm.
So we've already built in the life expectancy.
Right.
And now, I'm saying you may get a few more years, but cost-effective wise, it may be better to just run this ambulance until you replace one of these other 2. Because we've already planned for their life expectancy, which is 2017.
Right. So to replace that, say, with a medium duty because we've proven that without a doubt, the medium duties hold up mechanically better than the vans. They may not ride as comfortable. So right now, the brand new price for a medium duty is $220,000. So I guess the argument would be as we push this thing out, what's our philosophy on that, and we may have to evaluate that when the time comes. But right now we have just over $200,000 available in the EMS Special Revenue Fund to move on this now. So it's not a case where it's.
What do we put away each year, roughly?
Approximately $75,000.
In what, the
The
capital
EMS,
reserve fund?
Capital Reserve Fund.
It depends
No,
on
the
your
EMS,
revenue.
the EMS revenue fund. What's left after operating? What's typically the?
Well, it depends on your revenue that you gain for the year. Like right now, we're pacing to probably bring an additional $75,000 over what we spend for operations.
Over the operations.
Yeah. So, again, the fees that we charge are doing what we thought they were going to do. I think maintaining 3 trucks has served us well. I think we have to keep that philosophy. For example, it probably responds on calls more and more, and we're seeing it. For example, last night it was canceled en route, but it was responding to a call because we needed a 3rd truck.
And making a point, the call last night would have been a cardiac arrest, Chief. It would have been a very important call to get that 3rd ambulance out.
Right.
Sue, did you want to?
Yeah, I'm just noticing a discrepancy between CIP and what's on your chart here for the ambulance. CIP approved $145,000.
At some point in time, I can throw out the idea of, when you determine, here's an ideal situation where you determine your fleet, and I don't suspect it's going to grow any more for a number of years, because 3 ambulances seem to be working for us right now, is, perhaps looking at a lease purchase program where every year how much you're going to need for your fleet, and just keep, budgeting for it, versus, we noticed in the previous slide where you saw that little spike in the ambulance budget, the EMS budget, it's because you'll see that because, again, we proved that we need the truck, but I don't want a truck that's gonna cost us a significant amount of money.
But I guess that's where I'm going. So $3,100. Let's triple that. Let's say it costs you $10,000 a year for the next 3 years. That's $30,000 in maintenance costs.
Doesn't include downtime.
Doesn't include downtime.
So you lose a vehicle for a number of weeks, where we would, task mutual aid to help us out.
That's possible. Those are theoreticals, yes. But that's versus $140,000 of replacement.
Right.
So, and what does that buy you as far on the other end? What are you going to possibly extend for your life? So then, that's what I'm just looking for.
Going, Nick, and I think those are numbers you can come up with.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
And bring them back to us so we can look at those different scenarios.
And that's the thing is that, I anticipate after the, coming after the first of the year is doing the full analysis on the value of remount, remount, purchasing new, or even deferring. Even, I'll give you a snapshot of what for the example I talked to you about is the lease purchase. So if you just have a constant cost of your fleet, you'll have an idea. Right there.
Alan has a question, and I'd kind of like to move on.
Yeah, all right, just quick, I'm just a quick, analysis here. So you're telling me you get 10 calls a month, roughly, let's say, just transports?
Transports for that truck.
Okay, and give it 20-mile radius, just, right? 200 miles a month?
Well, that also does include.
Just a minute.
Yeah, okay, I'm seeing where you're going.
12 months. Just do the math, and I came up with $120,000 you're making in transport. And if the vehicle only costs us, if it costs us $5,000 a year or $6,000 a year to maintain it, you're still to the good $110,000 or $100,000.
Right.
So I don't see the sense in replacing a vehicle, even if you've got a little maintenance to do to it. If you've got two vehicles, you've still got 2 ambulances online.
Correct.
The third ambulance, as you said, wasn't really intended to have anyway. It's a spare, it's a backup. So if you've got a problem, you can get it fixed. It's not like we're going to be out of service.
Right.
And $3,100 that's normal maintenance on a vehicle through the year. Oil changes and grease and whatever else. That's brakes and wear and tear. That's normal wear and tear on a vehicle.
Yeah, it's probably double of what we're experiencing with the other vehicles right now.
Well, yeah, but even double. If it's $3,100, that's cheap money still.
Yeah. But again, remember, I think you brought this up earlier, is the fact that the other part of that revenue goes towards operational costs in personnel.
That's true. That's correct. But you still got quite a bit of lump. You've got quite a lump sum they're using, and we're only talking about 10 transports. We're not talking about the rest of the time you're using it also.
Right. Remember, it's also used just to be available.
That's right. Yeah, I understand.
And so there's a value to that public value that we rely on. So without it, we'll do the full analysis and we'll take a look at that.
Just one quick question, not on this, but it's related to this. So when the RSA that established the police revolving fund, that RSA is for all public safety. We chose to word that article for police details.
Yes.
Where I see this, this is starting to increase. Why don't we explore having a public safety revolving fund where, because now we're budgeting for retirement, for standby at St. A's, we're going to have vehicle costs. Why don't we look into rolling this all into one special detail? Because at some point you may have that same problem where you're trying to budget for anticipated events you may be standing by for, and you may have more, you may have less. It's going to be the same thing that we saw on the police side, but we're at the beginning of it now. Why not nip it in the bud before it gets to that point? We've already established the revolving fund. Why not just, whether it's a special article that says, shall we now include police special details? Because that's what it's for. It's supposed to be to pay out, cover expenses for special details, and it should be self-sustaining. Any money going out is being brought in by your special detail rates.
Yeah, one fund.
It's in the RSA to include both.
Yeah, you can. It just was not presented that way.
Understood. I'm saying, so we would probably have to go to town meeting with an article that says, shall we include this? Yeah. But that may be something to consider, so those lines, those detail lines are clean.
Take a look at it, see if it's worthwhile going that route. Yeah, fine.
I also included in your, you should have gotten is the cost of doing business. That is something I update annually. It just gives you a snapshot of the cost of equipment and apparatus that may be tied up or allocated or used during a type of call. So it gives you an idea. For example, we had a house fire recently during the lightning storms on Page Hill Road, and to properly extinguish the fire, we had a number of resources that were there, both from Goffstown and from neighboring communities that were assisting us. And I realized real quick, just looking at my command board, that we probably had over $3 million worth of apparatus equipment on scene to handle this house fire, and it was just nothing unusual. It's the cost of doing business. So I have copies up here for folks behind me, and if you need another copy, let me know. But it gives you a good snapshot of where all this money is going towards, and the different types of calls. For example, a structure fire, motor vehicle accident, or even a cardiac arrest. You'll have an idea of what entails our operation and why it does cost so much.
Could I just make just one,
Sure.
kind of like not a tutorial, but just maybe if you change that to the value of specific equipment, because cost of makes it sound like that's what we're spending every time we go to a.
Just a caveat. For example, when we use a Sawzall on a motor vehicle crash, it doesn't mean we take it and we throw it away.
Right, exactly.
I mean, we may have to replace a blade or two, but we're not. It's the cost of the item that is being allocated for that particular type of incident. It doesn't mean we throw it in a dumpster.
It's the value of.
Right. Same thing goes with apparatus. An engine could cost $500,000. It's on scene operating, but it doesn't mean that we just get rid of it when we're done.
Right, because somebody may think, geez, it costs $82,000 every time we go to a motor vehicle collision.
Right. All right, fire department capital items. This is something that obviously been vetted through the CIP process. Excuse me. We have a number of items this year to talk about because they've been deferred or they've been pushed off a number of years, and we're looking at them again. For example, the replacement of Forestry One. Forestry One is a 1968 Jeep surplus military vehicle that was never really intended to be used as a forestry vehicle. However, our crews have done a great job trying to retrofit the unit to make it work. So it's got equipment on there, it's got a tank on there for water, and it's got tools and equipment storage. The problem is, again, it was never intended to be used for the purpose that it has. In fact, the seatbelts that are on the unit were installed by our folks. They're not. I think they're old structure straps that are used, and they were never intended to be used for true seatbelts. So it gives you an example, and it's got the old electrical system on it. The batteries are under the seats, and they constantly give off nasty fumes for the folks that are operating in it. And it's become a truck that's not very reliable. It's not very roadworthy, and when it gets to the scene, it tends to break down on us. I've got a picture that I can send you of it with the hood up at a brush fire. It's pretty disheartening to our guys when they finally get there and it breaks down on them. So the truck is very old. Well, I'm not going to say very old because I was born before that date. So I'm not saying very old, but it's old as far as fire apparatus goes. The replacement would be not just a forestry unit. I'm proposing, again, looking at our apparatus and purchasing new apparatus to make it usable for our community and the purposes that we need it for. And the new truck would be a four-wheel drive, all hazards, year-round response vehicle, quick response vehicle. So it just wouldn't be used for brush fires. It'd be used for checking a wire down that's come down in a storm. It could be a quick response unit during inclement weather, like say a snowstorm or an ice storm, where a typical fire truck would just get stuck. So this truck would be a quick attack unit that'd be able to get in, possibly put the fire up before it got very large. Again, a year-round response vehicle instead of just being used for several months during the year. The cost of that new unit is $130,000. Again, it's a chassis and the retrofit of all the equipment, the tank, the pump, and cabinetry in the back to be suitable for that. The next one was the fire department, the fire apparatus capital reserve fund. Again, this was funded initially, well, it was actually capital reserve funds for years ago, but it was rejuvenated back in 2008, and the capital reserve fund was used to help pay the cost match for the grant for the tower ladder. It was used so we can get the $1 million tower ladder that we have, would save us from purchasing other ladder trucks. And also it was used to help purchase our engine 2. At that point, the capital reserve fund was pretty much depleted, and the voters voted last year to refund that another $75,000. So we have $75,000 back in that capital reserve fund, and at this point, we're requesting another $150,000 to be added in fiscal year 2014. There's a little caveat: the board is the agents for this fund. And they have the ability to use that to purchase or put money towards a apparatus purchase. So, for example, if you want to use this to, the $150,000 plus the $75,000 to purchase that replacement to Forestry One, it could be done and not impact the budget, other than the CRF. Any questions on that at all?
Just on the forestry, Chief, I'm thinking ahead to CIP and all of the things that are on there. Can you get us a price? And I understand what you're looking for here for that all hazard attack. Can you get us a price for just a basic forestry unit, an F550 with a forestry skid to replace what you have now, just to give us an option?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's one of those things where, we were looking at a all-season response unit, quick attack unit that would have hose loads on it, also cabinetry so we can keep air packs on and on in the off season. When we're not fighting wildland or brush fires, it would have air packs on it. So it was fully capable for that, but we'll get you a price for that.
And only because there's just so much on CIP that we may have to. I understand what your wishes are and what you would like to see here, but if just so we have something to fall back on.
Sure, absolutely.
That would be great. Thank you.
The next page, the next slide is again the concept that we've been working on. I've been working on for a number of years now while I've been here with Goffstown. Is, for example, we've taken 2 low ladder trucks that need to be replaced, and we replaced it with 1 tower ladder. We took one old tanker truck and 1 engine that would need to be replaced, and we created a pumper tanker, our engine 2. So we're reducing our fleet, and here we go again. And we're taking engine 1 and squad 1, and we're gonna get rid of them and replace it with 1 rescue pumper. The thing about the fact that with technology and apparatus advancements today, we found that even with our tower ladder and with engine 2, that with those advances in the manufacturing process and we have for options out there, it gives us the ability to combine single-use pieces like this and combine the two to reduce the fleet and the long-term costs of maintaining them and replacing them hopefully down the road. So these multi-use function vehicles are pretty much the way to go, and we've capitalized on that, and here we go again. So, for example, with engine 1, it's a 1994 Spartan 3D. It has a 1250 pump on it with 1,000 gallons of water on board. It's got tools, equipment, and seating for 6. It's something that it's a vehicle that continually gives us some problems as far as mechanical issues. This is the vehicle with the frame issue that's got the Band-Aid fix. I hate to use that term, but it's got the temporary fix to the frame that was put on by Denman Spring, and again, it's got us through to 2 years. So as this truck's been deferred through the CIP process, it got us that extra couple of years to get through it. Now we're at that 2-year mark where the folks that put the patch on said you probably really need to think about doing something with this vehicle, and here we are. So we're also noticing with this particular truck, it's difficult to find parts, and unfortunately, here we go again. We got notified recently that the transfer valve for the pump broke. I had it evaluated today by our pump specialist, and it's going to cost, just for that one part, it's going to cost $1,500 to $2,000. Again, it's putting money for bad on this vehicle, and again, it's just to get us by with this the pump, and this pump has always struggled to get certified every year to pump what it's been rated for, that 1,250 gallons per minute. But we've been able to get it certified. I don't know if it's going to be able to maintain that status much longer. Squad 1 is is a 1999 Valley, I call it dingy machine. It was actually purchased initially as a hose reel vehicle, and again, it gets back to the days where you purchase fire apparatus for one purpose only. For example, you had a ladder truck, you had a hose truck, you had an engine that had the pump on it, and you had a rescue that was just a single rescue, and so each truck had its own single function. This truck had a single function had a big hose reel on it, and its job was to deploy a bunch of large diameter hose, and because there wasn't a need for that, it was then it was taken up the Valley, where they retrofitted a hose bit on it and a little larger water tank on it. It only has 350-gallon water tank on it, seating for 2, and it holds some equipment. So it's not suited for primary fire attack, and that's the problem. It's one of those things where it's a truck that's typically brought last to the fire scene, if brought at all, and we really don't get any credit for it with the ISO. So it's one of those things where we would like to get credit for an engine, but we don't. It's undersized for its purpose, and it's only with 350 gallons. It's not really suited for a town like Goffstown, because Goffstown only has about 30% coverage with fire hydrants in town. So it's not like we can just take a hose and connect to a fire hydrant and use it. We typically are in a rural sense where we're scrambling to find water, or we have to bring water to the scene. That's hence reason for engine 2 that has 2,000 gallons of water on board. So in this project, we're replacing both these trucks that are aging. We have to get rid of anyway, and replacing it with one rescue pumper, and which would have 1,000 gallons of water on board, 1,500 gallon per minute pump, and it's got a dual foam delivery system for hazmat type fires, and it'll have full compartmentation for rescue systems like the Jaws of Life and the airbags we talked about earlier. So again, it's reducing our fleet down again. Some of the numbers I've been putting together for the life of Engine 1, since we got Engine 1, it has averaged $11,000 a year of maintenance costs, and it continues not to fail me on that number. On Squad 1, it's a little half that, to about $6,500 a year of maintenance costs on that truck, only because it's not used. It's not used the way it should be, and it's a truck that probably would be suited for an inner city type of truck that has a hydrant every 500 feet, but we're not a community like that. So unfortunately, it's outlasted its life, and both these trucks need to go.
So Chief, that's $17,500 in repairs each year, so if you got this new truck, your repair line would go down by that amount?
No, I'd say on average, it averaged over the years. I mean, our repair lines have gone down because, again, we don't utilize that truck where we have to repair it a lot. So far this year, each truck has probably cost us about $2,000. If we have to repair that pump, we have to come up with another $2,000. So again, the year's not over, but they could cost us that much. And that's the problem we're having with Engine 1. It's the braking system was under manufactured for the weight of that vehicle, so we constantly burn through front end components of that truck, and the more we use it, the more we tend to spend money on it. Any questions?
Just one, Chief. This is the bottom vehicle right there. I mean, that vehicle's got value for other cities, I'm assuming. I mean, you're saying it's not good for rural, but
Yeah, and that's the thing is as far as like, trade-in value, that's something that we have to work out with a vendor. Or we send another bid and see what we can get back.
We typically don't get much.
Right.
I could find a second home for it.
Huh?
Or you
I
could.
could find a second home for it.
Most of them do, they always find a second home north of here.
We're a third world nation.
New,
Yeah, for example,
up the road to Concord.
Sue brought up, like, there was our old ladder one, was, obviously, wasn't suited well for Goffstown because it had a very small motor in it. So it's good for a community that doesn't have hills, but for Goffstown, for example, Mark, your top end speed going up, some of these hills around here probably be 5 miles an hour. for
5
that
to
truck.
10, no more than 10 tops.
Right. So,
Had a small 200 horsepower engine in it, with a truck that weighed, how many tons? I mean, just,
yeah. So the ladder needed a lot of work, and you had to manufacture a lot of, because they don't make the parts for it anymore. So we traded it in to the vendor when we purchased the new truck. And I just got a email from an assistant chief in Rafalia, Venezuela, that the truck is in service down there. The place doesn't have any hills, and they use it. They've totally refurbed it, and it's a beautiful truck.
I left Goffstown.
They left Goffstown on
they
the
left
front of the truck.
Goffstown on it.
So it's quite a story. But again, they wanted to put a ton of money into it. Any questions before I go into the fire station improvement program? Recently, we were able to get public safety impact fees allocated to help us with some design and cost estimating for the purpose of budgeting when we talked about the fire station improvement program. The fire station improvement needs have been discussed and studied extensively over the past 10 years, probably even longer. But as far as I've been here, it's been a topic of discussion on determining what do we do with our aging stations. And most recently, the Fire Station Improvement Committee was assembled by the board at that time to look in what was the most viable route to take after looking at all the previous studies and determine where we need to go from here. So all the studies have concluded that the current fire station facilities are not suited for the current demands of today's fire department. If you remember that graph I showed you earlier where 19, let me if I can spin back and for example, when I talk about these stations, just to give some time frames, Station 18 was built in 1959, and Station 17 was built in 1976, and Station 19 was built in 1969. In this graph, you see the call volume back in 1980. It's a fraction of what we do today. And so you can imagine the demands that it puts on, the stresses and demands it puts on the stations on today's operations. These places are busy places. Even the fact that Station 17, which is the East Goffstown station on Charles Hill Road, that's what we call a call fire station. The crews coming in and out, and the equipment responding and coming back, it tends to be a probably busier now than it ever was in the history of that station. So all the fire stations have functional space issues. The apparatus bays are too small. The apparatus bay door openings are too small. Where equipment storage areas are premium. The office areas are struggling to keep up with staff demands and operational demands that we currently have. The cramped quarters, if anybody has the opportunity to see where administration is right now at Church Street Station, you see when you come right in the door, you see 3 offices right off the bat, and we're all kind of crammed in there, and we're trying to make things work. There's energy efficiency issues that were highlighted during during several energy audits that were brought up by the town, and they all realized the fire stations are pretty much the worst culprits in town as far as energy efficiency problems. We have accessibility and security concerns in all 3 stations, and obviously construction and maintenance issues are ongoing. Some of the issues that we're looking at Station 17, the apparatus door openings are too small, like I said. The approach angle is too steep. There's a lack of insulation. The walls, doors, and windows and overhead doors just hemorrhage heat in the winter. The heating systems are inadequate. They're constantly struggling to keep the place warm, especially with the fact that we have lack of insulation. The electrical system is inadequate. There's no fire sprinklers up there. There's no vehicle exhaust removal system. The apparatus drain system, I have concerns, especially when it comes to, Carl Quorum has come forward and said there's no EPA regulations in regards to drainage. And frankly, I'm pretty confident that all 3 stations, we don't meet the current standard. Again, we talked about the water quality problem that exists up at Station 17 that needs to be addressed sooner than later. And it has an underground propane tank that needs to be addressed and pulled out of the ground. The crews last year were able to re-roof half the station because we had severe leaking problems. The other half now is starting to get to that point where it needs roof replacement. Station 18, not to sound like a broken record, but again, we have functional space issues. The apparatus door openings are way too small. The trucks leave the station maybe with an inch to spare on each side. And I give the drivers kudos. They do their best, but sometimes they do hit the doors and they create damage. Again, and it's unfortunate, but it may happen. Energy issues, energy efficiency issues. Our HVAC systems inadequate. All 3 stations, there's no decontamination areas. They're washing contaminated items in the open and in areas that could contaminate other areas of the station. The generator power only portion of the building, and tends to be a problem, especially when we lose power for a number of days, and it really cuts into the functionality of each of the station. In Station 18, we actually have 2 underground fuel tanks. We have a propane and a heating fuel tank. There is no leaking at this time, but there's no guarantees that what we need to contend with in the future. All the stations have been tested for hazards. In Station 18 has asbestos and door jams in the floor tiles that need to be removed. Station 19, the Mass Road Station, has the space function issues also. The apparatus door openings are smaller. They're actually the largest openings that we have in all three stations, but they're still small. We're always struggling with storage areas with Station 19. We have energy efficiency problems with lack of insulation. We currently had it evaluated, and we have equivalent of probably an R4 or an R6 in the walls at Station 19. HVAC system is inadequate, no decontamination areas, and the electrical systems are just maxed out. Again, apparatus drainage areas are a concern for us. And there's an underground fuel tanks in the rear of the building also that need to get pulled. There's asbestos in the door jams and the floor tiles that need to be addressed. There's PCBs in the door caulking, and there's lead in the windows and doors. And the roof is showing a point where it's starting to leak in several areas. That's when you were talking about leaking, it's because of the lack of insulation. It just caused ice damming, and we got problems on that roof. And the pitch on that roof is not very good anyway. So, for example, if we were just going to budget today to fix the ills, say if we wanted to fix the water quality issues at 17, remove the fuel tanks, the roof replacements on the Station 17 and 19, and so on and so on. If we're just going to basically fix the ills, but not address the space issues or the door issues, we're talking at least $350,000 just to fix the ills, and that's not to account for, that's just the Band-Aid to fix this. It doesn't really get to us where we're fixing the energy efficiency problems that were highlighted by the number of studies that came out. We realize that going forward with this project, that there's grants available, And we feel that I feel confident that we could possibly get grants to pay for items like generators for each of the stations. The cistern that I'm going to show you shortly with Station 17, and backup materials and components to the backup training or EOC, or Emergency Operations Center at Station 18. And I'll show you that in a minute. So let's I'll stand up and I'll show you the boards, and just to give you an idea what the concepts are going to.
Chief, do you want to maybe bring it up here so everybody, the camera can see it? Can they?
I don't know if I know the camera can see it.
The camera can see it. Okay.
Yeah, he said he could earlier. So with Station 17, what we propose is, as you see on the left side of the screen, is the fact that this is the existing station right here. This was built by volunteers. I know that several people mentioned in some other meetings that volunteers built the station. Yes, they did. Back in the 70s, volunteers came up and built the station on weekends and weekdays, and got donated material, and this station was built from volunteers. We're maintaining that station. We realize that the value of this whole project is the fact that we're not scrubbing the site down and starting cleaning. We realize every square foot that we don't have to rebuild is money saved. Okay, so for example, this total project we're talking about for the to upgrade and renovate 3 stations is just over $4.4 million. Okay, put that in perspective. Bedford just proposed the other night to their council for a new substation with land off of River Road in Bedford for the same amount, for one substation. Okay, and there's a number of communities throughout the state that are currently in the midst of it. Wilton is spending $1.7 million just for an addition to one station. Okay, Exeter is proposing $2.5 million for a small substation down off of 101, and Farmington is in the midst of proposing their station. So that gives you perspective of where we are with cost, and we'll kind of go in that and why this is the most cost-effective way, in the Fire Station Improvement Committee went this route. It makes sense. Okay, so the addition is the addition to your larger bays. Okay, it gives us the storage area that we need. The larger bays accommodate the modern fire apparatus, and it actually improves our approach and angle out of the station at the intersection of Blackbrook Road and Terrell Hill. Okay, it's that flatter section where you saw that little phone building, the phone company building. That's where that is. That building's right over here. Okay, so the existing station, you have an entry where security vestibule, you have an office, future crew rooms, dormitories, in women's bathroom with a shower, and then you have a day room or meeting room. This is where the crew could meet, assemble, have small training out there. We have what we call company training, where the folks that work out here can come in, do a little small in-service class, get out and work on the trucks. Right now, they just can't do that. There'll be space in here. In the drawing, there's a space here for an ambulance engine and a trailer. We know that when we design these structures and facilities, that we're looking to the future. We know that what we do today is got to last 20, 30, maybe 40 years. Okay, if we're going to spend this much money on it, we have to make it last. We have to make it so the chiefs down the road don't have to come to the board and say, "Boy, we really screwed up. We didn't put enough room out there," because with the growth of the town and the other issues that we talk about all the time is the aging community. Your EMS calls are probably going to grow 3 to 5% annually, so there may be need to put that third ambulance out here. Right now, it's at the Church Street station, the third ambulance, but that may be an option where you need that out here.
Is that drawing to scale? As far as one building to
Yes, I believe
because
so.
it looks like that vehicle is almost the size of the existing station.
Just about. I mean, if you look at like say our ambulance 2 and 1, the medium duty chassis, they run about 26 feet from, they would basically take up the existing station if they're parked in there. Because right now in the existing station we have oil tanks. This is the storage area, so there's no room. There's no room. So you're right. And the engine is pretty much maxed out from the door to the back door. You know, that's the conditions we're up there. You're happy to stop by any time and take a look around. Added benefit here, obviously you have gear storage areas, but with a station like this, whenever according to code, you have to install fire sprinklers. So to do that, you have to give yourself a water source. Like anything else that's out there, if you don't have a hydrant nearby or you're tied in with the municipal water system, you have to give yourself a water source. So I said, well, if we're going to do that, we need a cistern. Okay, so let's as a foundation of this apparatus bay area, we sink a cistern in there, a 30,000-gallon cistern. Okay, so now it's a water source that ISO recognizes, and because it's on a sprinkler, it's got a fire pump, and so it's actually pressurized. Okay, so if there's a fire in the area of Blackbrook Road and Terrell Hill Road, we could tie in using a connection off this building, and it's like having a hydrant. Okay, 30,000 gallons to work with, and that should help with ISO rating in the immediate area. So again, that's something that we could possibly get a grant for to help defray the costs on that particular item, and it benefits everybody in the area. Okay, so it's I would say it's no frills, but it's where we need to be for the next 20 to 30, maybe 40 years out in this part of the town. Any questions at all? It's a unique site where actually this drops down. You know, I had a fight with the Ricci Construction and the architect. They're like, take down the old building. I said, well, no, then you lose the value of that building. And they said, well, you're right. And so what they're going to do is they replace the roof and they re-site it with insulation, rigid board, so they get the energy efficiency that they want, and they make it aesthetically pleasing to the community. And that was important to us as a committee. It had that curb appeal. It just can't be a metal box in the middle of nowhere. All right. Station 18. This has always been a challenge, no matter what we were looking at, because this is our main hub of operations, and it's basically one of our busiest stations. So we want to make sure that what we do to this, it's going to suit us for again those years to come. But Station 18 it's a flat roof building. It was built back in the 50s, and it really nothing has been done to this building much since it was constructed back in the 50s. In fact, I have the original plans in my office, and not much has been added. I can guarantee you that. So what we struggle here is the door size. The door sizes are just, again, we're just squeezing our apparatus in, and we actually had to customize the tower ladder so it would fit in this station, would fit in any of our stations. So by customizing it, it bumped up the cost of that vehicle about $150,000. So if we get this thing done in future down the road, we're looking at replacing that tower ladder in 15 years or so. We don't necessarily have to purchase something that's customized like we did today. It could be something that could be cheaper, less expensive. So this is our administrative hub for the department. We call it headquarters. Okay, so you would take the existing station in the apparatus bays, and you wouldn't throw them away, and you wouldn't discard them or take that building down. You're maintaining it. This is what we have. This is what we have today. This is the old hose tower. Okay. So we're going to take this building and we're going to still utilize it for, again, the smaller bays can accommodate the ambulances. They have the engines in there now. They're big enough for the ambulances, so let's keep them over there. Or there's that forestry truck or that all seasons response unit. It's smaller. It's suited over there. We keep them over there. The middle section is going to be that administrative area. Okay, so if somebody comes in, there'll be a security vestibule. They'll have a greeting area where they're greeted by the secretary, and then they'll be assigned to where they need to go. And there's plenty of office space at that point for the staffing level that we feel that we're going to be maintaining for a number of years. Then there's going to be a main corridor, service corridor that ties the two, the old into the new. And the new apparatus bay is going to be suited for two larger apparatus. In the back, you're going to have a decon area, storage. There's going to be stairs to go upstairs. Plenty of gear storage. Where today, if you went in Station 18 and went on Church Street, all our gear storage is actually in this back hallway. And when guys are trying to get dressed to get on call, to go on calls, it's not, I wouldn't say comical, but it's interesting to watch anyway. Downstairs in the basement is going to be kept as storage for either filing or equipment. So that'll be maintained, not much really done in the basement. There is a basement to Station 18. Second floor. Here you got a second floor now for the crew area and for training. For example, you have a crew area, kitchen, day room. You have a shower room for both men and women. You get lockers, the whole 9 yards. You also have dorms for overnight accommodations. And more importantly, you've got a training room now at the Church Street Station to accommodate both training room and we talked about earlier was a backup EOC, Emergency Operations Center. Because, for example, if you need to ramp up operations for disaster or for a large-scale emergency, you may need a larger room that currently the current EOC doesn't provide. And we'll be able to wrap maybe some funds, grant funding into to ramp that up for telecommunications and other benefits for that.
Chief, any elevator in there?
Because of the EOC, we may be able to get a grant for accessibility to the EOC. And you'll see back here, there is an elevator in this particular drawing that comes up the back, and then it dumps out actually somewhere around here. Yep. So just to give a price point of an elevator, it's about $170,000 to add into this project. Okay. Any questions on Church Street? Again, there's improvements for energy efficiency around. They're replacing all the windows because they're hemorrhaging heat right now. And as far as functionality goes, it's much better. You can have a visitor come in, meet with administration, and not necessarily being, right now you'd sit on the kitchen table. And they're trying to serve dinner or whatever it is, or serve lunch. Okay, here's Station 19 in Mass Road in Penardville. This building was actually built in the 60s, late 60s, and this building actually had the larger of all doors, but they're still small for today's standard. Today's standard is 14 by 14 door. Okay, these are 12 by 12. Or just to give you perspective, this is your 14 by 14 door. All right. We've had problems in the past where we've had, even in the past 10 years, apparatus show up to cover the station and they just can't fit in the station. Or when they try to back in the station, they didn't fit so well. They actually damaged the station. This will accommodate the one larger bay. That could be either a ladder truck or a large modern engine. There'll be a room over here for an ambulance and a regular engine. And again, we still have room here for boats. Again, we're shifting all the operational components of the fire station, maintaining it downstairs, where right now there's 2 offices downstairs in the Mass Road station. All the offices will be moved upstairs. So all your operations, this gives you a lot of room for your gear room, your decon facilities. There'll be a small bathroom down there, but all your supply and operational components of what you do on a day-to-day basis is all going to be downstairs. Upstairs, similar to the Church Street Station, you're going to have your crew day room. We're still maintaining a training room and classroom down there. There is a weight training and fitness room still, and then plenty of storage, and there'll be 2 offices up there. Again, there's crew dorms, kitchen, lockers, and shower facilities there also. One of the things is, believe it or not, there's a kitchen downstairs at Mass Road, and there's a kitchen upstairs. Back when they used to hold regular events and dinners and suppers or whatever they want to call it.
There was the association's kitchen upstairs.
The association's kitchen, right. In fact, we're going to be using it tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night we are. Yep.
We're going to have a Forest Fire Wardens meeting up there. So, again, it's making it cleaner. There is a transition. You'll see in drawings. There's a step up. There's like a 1.5 foot step up from the second floor where it is now to the second floor here. There's an added benefit here is the fact that the current stations at Church Street and Mast Road are sprinklered. We got that under a grant. So tying into that system, we won't be starting from scratch anymore. We're just extending the sprinkler systems to the new section, and with the vehicle exhaust removal system, we're just going to be tying into this one bay. So again, we're not duplicating a lot of the efforts that we've already done for the current grant work that we have.
So 3 bays there, and what's that, the boat out back?
Yeah, we still have, actually, if you spun this thing around, Plummer Street, you'd see there's a overhead door here, and that's where we keep one of the rescue boats. Yeah. Again, we haven't gone overboard. Again, we're limited to space on site. We're basically taking that side parking area and we're making a parking area out back. Okay, so as people come in if the public comes in, they can still park up front and go in the front door. But as far as the crew coming in for calls, they'll come into the backyard and they'll come into the back door, suit up, get on the trucks and go. I think functionality-wise, it's a better situation. Any questions?
Where's your flashing emergency message board going then?
You could go right under that. It's got to be protected.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Again, this is our first professional stab at a rendering. I suspect it may go life its own as we get along here.
And it's 4.4 million for all three.
4.4 million for all three stations.
Why in CIP did they do 4.56?
They did not account for the public safety impact fees at the moment.
So is 4.56 the gross appropriation for this?
Yes, and then they want to put the impact fees toward that number to bring it down.
On the revenue side.
I also included.
Still have to do gross appropriations.
I also included the different bond schedules for this particular project. We have a 20-year level principal. We have a 20-year level debt. We have a 30-year level principal and 30-year level debt. There's a number of ways you could finance this, including getting a government-backed loan from USDA. That the rates may be better and you don't have to have bond issuance fees. But this gives you an example of what if you were to bond it, what the annual cost would be. And just by going on the current evaluation, I know that the town's evaluation should be updated here the next few weeks. That but under 2012-13 evaluation, $400,000. I'm talking about $26 for $100,000.
Town's value went down $5 million.
Went down $5 million. That's the thing is we just don't know what it's going to be until the last moment. But that would still get you about $26 and change.
Any questions for the chief? Very detailed presentation.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just a couple.
Go ahead, Dick.
Chief, could you get us, could you do a call for service breakdown? I know you have the graph there, but in the past you would give us the pie chart with the actual calls for service broken down. Could you do that for like 2011, 12, and 13?
You want the general NFPA breakdown?
Whatever you've done in the past, it doesn't,
NFPA.
fires, hazmat, forestry, all of just.
What I'll do is we report all of our incidents to the National Fire Incident Reporting System, which classifies incidents under certain codes. So whether it's a fire, medical, rescue, it's all broken down.
Could you run like the fire experience report?
Sure.
That would be fine.
2011 to date, or
10, 11, and 12?
Yep.
And then for the airbags, can you get us kind of just like, I would assume you're getting a package thing, just basically a description, information on that, and that would be helpful.
As far as like the number of bags it would include, or
Yeah, it just helps versus just a generalized.
yeah.
Then I had a couple questions for Sue.
Sure, keep it going.
Now that we're with the new Munis system.
Sure.
There's there was that subscription for the I Am Responding.
Yes.
That's more of a subscription versus professional dues. When I think of professional dues, that's typically association, memberships. So could there be a different line that covers subscriptions or maintenance for software, things like that, to break that out of that?
Is subscription an adequate description of it?
Yeah, because it's nothing. We don't receive a product. We just tie in with their system. In turn, they let us use it.
And where did you put it now?
It's under
Professional dues? Yeah.
Professional dues and subscriptions.
All right.
And also for the paramedic program, which is in EMS training, wouldn't that more correctly be in employee development? If someone is taking a...
We don't have that line established in EMS, though.
You don't have an employee development line?
Not in EMS. We could create one, I would
You might want to
Yeah.
create it, because training really is the upkeep of skills,
Yep.
EMS versus... Okay. And that's paid at 100%? That paramedic program, or how do we, like a
It's more like
50-50?
50%. It gets confusing because you have lab fees and a few other things that we're trying to.
That's all I have, thank you.
Anything else for Chief O'Brien? Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Good.
Those are our budget presentations for this evening. So that leaves us just with old business or new business and committee reports. Is there any old business or new business that? Yeah. Anything? You good, Mayor? Alan, you all set?
Sure. We had one, Sue, you were going to check, and I don't know if you had, we had talked last week about the money coming back from LGC and potentially using it for the dam. You were going to check to see if we went out to bid and awarded a contract, if that money could be encumbered.
Yes. Did I get a response?
And if, it's just a reminder if we could.
I did send it off to legal inquiries at LGC. I think they did respond. Sorry.
We'll find out.
I'm trying.
We'll find out.
I did one
It's late.
new business.
Yeah.
I did get to talk to the mechanic at the town garage today. He called me for the truck motor they were working on.
Yeah.
I believe they're going to get that rebuilt. They're going to use the motor they have and rebuild it. And it'll be all new. It'll cost about $10,000 when they're all done, but it'll be brand new. That's
Good.
all the cylinders, the pistons, everything, so. I mean, that's where they're headed. I'm not sure it's going to finish up there, but.
Okay, I'm going to run through the committee reports quickly if we could. HDC Phil's not here, so we'll,
Library?
Is there going to be another public comment?
yep,
Okay.
as soon as we're done.
Because
Yep.
I thought it was 9 o'clock, at 9 o'clock, that's when it was scheduled for.
Yeah,
Go
we're
ahead. Go ahead.
behind
Do you have some?
schedule.
Do you have something?
Yeah, it
Quickly?
would be kind of quick, yeah.
Yeah, please,
that way I
make it
can-
quick.
Very good. All right, Katie Benner again, 12 Joffrey Street. I just noticed that, on page 10 of the chief's report, there's an overpayment column for cost. Okay, that shouldn't even be a cost, because that's money that you didn't get in the first place. All right, it's money that you shouldn't have gotten in overpayment, right? So it shouldn't even be there as a cost. It should be a
even, you know? If you're getting something that you weren't supposed to get, it shouldn't be charged as a cost. But it's coincidental, it would be about the same prices of my signs. So I was wondering if we can change that overpayment to.
Well, you're trying hard to give you that.
Okay, public signs.
Yeah.
Because I believe they were ordered through the fire department, because you knew that, right?
The answer to that
And the
question is
cost?
no, that cannot be done.
Okay, but why can't we include it in the budget in here? Because that's where they got it in the first place. They got the signs through the fire department. It's for public service, and, you know,
didn't-
this
it didn't come-
overpayment should not even be there.
Yeah,
And that's about the charges.
That can't be done. We can't be shifting monies around willy-nilly just because people wish they were someplace other than where they are. There's a whole budget process, and you're seeing the beginning of it right now where we look at everything in excruciating detail. And we just can't be shifting money at will outside of the budget process because that's not transparent. It's not open to and available to all citizens. So, I mean, we just can't
But
do
this
that.
would be for
I
all-
understand
okay,
your,
all
I
right.
understand
Well,
your
then-
focus is on signs. We got the
Right,
message.
right. But it's
we
for all
can't
of
be-
us. It wouldn't be for
I
only me.
understand.
It would be for all of us.
Everything we do here is for all of us.
Okay.
Okay.
So anyhow, we can't do that because that money wasn't supposed to be there in the first place.
Right.
All
Can't do it.
right? And it comes from people overpaying, from residents overpaying. But anyhow, well, as soon as you can, could you give me an answer on the sign situation?
We
Okay, I
already-
appreciate that.
We agreed
okay?
to that already. Yep.
Okay. And another question also, though, how many fires do we have per year? Is it 16 fires per year?
Oh, he left.
Oh, is it 16 fires?
Oh,
about per
he's
year
here.
that we
Okay, I
have?
didn't see him.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's more.
I thought it was that on your chart, though. Didn't that you just show?
Well, that's how
on
many
your chart?
that's personnel, 16
Oh, okay, because I
firefighters.
thought it was, how many fires, you know.
No,
16
that was
fire
showing
personnel.
how many over the years versus how many calls. The other chart was how many calls.
Okay. And, because my idea about, maybe giving some of the calls from the police station to the fire department was not on film, I just thought I'd mention that again. It seems like the police are very busy, they have more calls than the fire department. The fire have to respond to accidents and try to get people out of cars and stuff. So if they did some, maybe the traffic, you know, work and responded to the dog calls, that would help the fire department and save us some money. It's just an idea. And also, regarding grants, we hear that a lot, and we're very paranoid about grants. I'm not sure if the fire chief knew about that. Got it? Okay.
Yeah, let's keep the
Okay.
conversation here,
Well, anyhow, we're
please.
very paranoid about grants. I just wanted to let you know because we had a bad experience with this Plan Bernardville. If you take a grant, there might be strings attached, and the government might own us. So please be careful with the grants. And also, could I officially ask you for copies of the existing grants that you have going, so we can look at them as people, as the right to know?
Ma'am, could you direct your comments up here? If you have a question for the chief,
Okay, I'm
direct them
sorry.
here. We'll ask the chief
Okay.
to get the information.
Okay, so we would like copies of the grants that are existing right now, maybe in from the fire department, and something that he's thinking about getting into for these projects, just to make sure they're okay. You know, we'd like to see them, okay?
Yep.
Because we're very paranoid about this grant thing, you know, lately. All right, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the committee reports. Library trustees.
That'd be me. They took, let's see, they had their approval of the minutes. They have a pie, I'm going to start the first, they have a mini book sale on the same weekend as the Pumpkin Regatta, which is going to be held at the library. And then they have a pie event, I think I've got their date right, November 16th at the Villa. They took in some donations. They took TD Bank, gave them a donation. They accepted a grant from New Hampshire Humanities Council. They took Friends donation for some more money, and another acceptance of donation from Friends of the Gingerbread Decorating. And they got through the rest of their financials, and then they kicked me out. That's okay. Thanks, guys. That was it. Short and sweet.
Gingerbread, huh?
How about Parks and Rec?
Parks and Rec met last week. Over at Roy Pool, they had Sperry Concrete installed the ADA pool lift, so that's been completed. They did find, they were having a difficult time finding a commercial pool company that would maintain. I guess most pool companies are getting out of municipal pool work, but they did find a company, Sterling Pools, and they're going to be pressure testing all of the lines and winterizing the pool sometime this month. The Surratt Complex and the Barnard Football Field Complex, fall fertilization will be taking place at the end of this month. The WZID block party on September 10th was a huge success. They parked about 140 cars alone, not counting people that just walked in. So that was a great job by all. And then an update on the ceiling painting of Barnard Track. If you remember, the Parks and Rec replaced the surface, and then the school district was going to do the other half of ceiling. Well, the school district is looking at a potential National Interscholastic Athletic Administration Association grant. And if they are awarded that grant, they would actually be putting a new top surface on that track as well as painting the lines. The total cost for that is about $79,000. So that would...
What would be the top surface?
It's kind of a rubberized track surface. If they're not...
able to use cleats on it? I know that over the
I don't
years
know.
there's
Yeah,
always
I don't
been a
know. I
discussion.
can't answer that. But if they're not successful, then the fallback, they'll use the money that they've already put aside and then just do the ceiling and the painting. And that was about it, other than other improvements that are ongoing, and they're very busy this time of the year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Budget Committee.
Yep, Budget Committee met. We met on the 19th, approved minutes of the meeting for May. A few board members were missing, but we still had enough for a good quorum. We had open comment. Most of the open comments you heard tonight were same comments we heard as you heard. They talked about the budgets in the school meetings. November 4th is going to be a budget. November 13th is going to be town. They're going to alternate. They're going to work the budgets and work the meetings out. They're going to try to get us the budget here for us to review pretty much by the end of October, so that we can get any things back that need to go back to them. We can get them back so that we can have a discussion with them. Basically, all of members reported. Parks and Rec's in good shape. They talked about possibly the Parks and Rec, and Nick, you might have a little more information. Roy Park, the tennis courts, are looking at a grant for that. I don't know if you heard anything about that. They're possibly looking for a grant for that. There's some concerns at Bartlett School in the kitchen area. That came up in the conversation for monies as well. Not having appropriate kitchen space, and trying to work out some new kitchen space there in the area there. I mean, it's a general discussion pretty much of all department heads. Mountain View Middle School's looking good. They got the roof done with a little bit less money than anticipated, so they have a little bit of extra money there. They are talking Maple Ave School. They're looking at security and safety issues as a top priority. They want to change the doors and the locks over there. They're looking at budget money for that as well. Schools, as we know, they've converted from oil to propane. They're looking to save their money pretty quick on that, to start recuperating some money. They've got 2 collective bargaining units going to school. And that's pretty much it. Their next meeting our next meeting is going to be November 17th, and I think Peter sent you, if I got my email right, he sent you an email message tonight. Committee, he's going to get the information to the committee for review, so that we're ready to go. The budget presentations on Wednesday and Thursday, starting 11/13. The town will be Wednesday, the school will be Thursday, and that's pretty much it.
So he's requesting the budgets from the selectmen by November 4th.
Yes.
That doesn't give us a whole lot of time.
No, it doesn't.
If you conclude on October 28th, which is the last deliberation session, I had scheduled for the board, because all of October you deliberate on the budget. And if you conclude on the 28th, it will be tight to get him
Yeah.
the budget for the 4th. I was hoping to get the 8th, as I told him in my response.
Okay.
So we'll see how he responds, whether. the
And I
8th
had explained to him as well that I wasn't sure if this committee would have enough time to come up with a solid answer for what we needed to get done.
I think the month of October, you should be able to conclude.
Okay.
How many more presentations, budget presentations?
more.
One more.
Yes,
That is
next week is admin.
admin.
And if you want to start deliberating after that, you
Well,
can.
we're gonna have
Get a
to.
head
Yeah.
start.
Yeah, I think we need to get into it quickly.
And
Well, we have I'm sorry, go ahead, Mark.
just one other thing, I just got an email here from Selectman Devanza. He's looking to, for the statue presentation, October 26th. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but he's looking,
Weekend after the
20th is a Sunday.
weekend after Pop
Be the
Pumpkin
Saturday after.
he's looking for the 26th to do the dedication of the statue. He's gonna do some sandblasting stuff. He's met with Carl to get the hole dug. Carl expressed some concerns about the water lines, electrical lines, and everything like that. I guess they have some as-built plans that they're gonna refer to look to, but sandblasting and all that stuff's being done. He talked with Sousa Signs, Sperry's, all set pretty much to go with everything, and they're looking on schedule for the 26th of October to make the dedication for the statue.
That's a Saturday after the pumpkin.
Yeah. And Phil apologizes that he was out of town for the meeting tonight, but
Very good.
He knew it was coming tonight.
and that's all I got.
All right, any other business come before the board this evening? Seeing
I'm
none?
going to ask something.
Late.
What we have,
Yes, will we have a budget overview,
yes.
before we start deliberating? Because it's kind of difficult to do that without, the impact of everything that's been
Yeah.
proposed so far.
You won't like it.
Yeah, I'll-
Oh, I'm sure we will.
Pile of money, we
It's
can.
important.
Yeah, it is.
Motion adjourned.
Okay, a motion.
You got it.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries 4-0. We are adjourned. Thank